Welcome to Norse Code, the number one podcast for your Minnesota Vikings. I'm your host producer. My name is James Kokoshnik. Thank you guys so much for listening. And at the other end of the tin cannon string, we have our analyst and co-host. You know him from numerous blogs and podcasts around the internet, most notably from the wide left. I can't even say Substack anymore. It is
newsletter. It's called a newsletter.
The not a Substack, the not a prediction market newsletter.
Yeah, we are not a prediction market.
No, absolutely not. Do not print that we are. Generally useful human, Arif Hassan. Arif, I mean, that's the first thing that we could talk about is the fact that Wide Left is no longer over on Substack.
Yeah, so it's over at a platform who I swear to God, this is its name. I didn't even think about this until after we switched, but its name is Beehive.
Mm-hmm.
And a number of people have since pointed out, hey, so like bees, right? Like because you're a beekeeper? And no, there are like 3 platforms for newsletters. Actually probably 4, but the 3 we were considering were Substack, the one that we're on, Beehive, and Ghost. And I had a couple of conversations with Beehive. They reached out to me. Actually, a former colleague of mine at The Athletic works for Beehive. And so we were able to get a pretty good deal for us. That's why I do a lot of things just for the bit, but making just enormous, giant business decisions like that, no, I'm not doing that. It's Beehive for a lot of great reasons. I wrote it over at wildleft.football about why we made the switch and what that provides readers, what that provides us, things like lower fees, things like kind of the politics and ethics of the newsletter platform that we're on and stuff like that. So we'll link that in the show notes, but it's also, you can just go to wildleft.football. The website's the same. Your experience should be very similar. I had a bunch of people ask me about RSS feeds. I did not realize that this many people had used RSS feeds, so I didn't enable it initially. Everything with Beehive is like customizable, whereas Substack is very turnkey. And so I have to go into the settings and check it. But there is an RSS feed. And now when you log into the page, there's a little section called Socials and RSS where you can find a little button that looks like the RSS reader icon. And that'll give you the RSS reader. Or you can click on that article, go into the comments where I directly write out the link to the RSS feed. So check that out. There's a bunch of reasons, which I think will be kind of interesting because I write about the industry a fair amount of times. And so given that, people seem to be interested in why I make certain business decisions, and I lay it all out as to why that's the case. So check that out.
It is worth noting that one of our listeners, Adam, up in Alaska, had actually sent this as a link to you a while ago on Blue Sky. I know because he had included me on it as well. And then after the switch happened, he lost his mind. This was what you had gone with. So I'm just sad that we were like this close to Arif Hassan having an OnlyFans. So.
No, that's we were not close at all. That was not a consideration.
You know, when you say something like that, it makes me think that it was probably a consideration.
No, it doesn't. You're just saying that to make me mad, and it's not working. I'm very happy. Don't I sound happy, James?
You always sound happy when you're on a call with me. I don't know a better way to put this. And with that, welcome to this episode of Norse Code. Hope you guys are all doing well. We have a couple things to talk about. The Vikings hired a new GM. There was an interesting wrinkle in the Diane Rissani thing.
Yeah.
That will not die. It absolutely will not die. Yeah, and now there are implications involving the Vikings.
Like, of course there are. Like, why wouldn't there be? Like, why wouldn't this story that has to do with the Titans and the Patriots and a tiny bit about the Washington Commanders, why wouldn't this involve the Vikings for no reason at all?
Yep. So we'll talk about that. We got some mailbag stuff as well. But before we begin, thank you guys so much for listening to Norse Code. While we were gone, we crossed an important milestone that I just wanted to just quick mention. According to all of our lovely stats and things, we crossed over to 2 million listens of the podcast.
Why?
2 million individual listens of the show. So I just wanted to, and it took a lot less time for the the first million's the hardest. The second million,
yeah, as they always say, right? Yeah.
The second million took a lot less time. So I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for listening, for sharing links out and all of that. We really do appreciate it. Even this being our final year, I did want to cross that 2 million threshold because I saw it coming. So thank you guys. That was really fun to see. I had posted a nice little thing on the Discord about it as well, if you are subscribed over on Patreon. But that was really fun. So thank you. We greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to support the show, there's a couple of things you can do, including going over to threadless.com/NorseCode. You can check that out. We have plenty of shirts. We have baby onesies. We have puzzles that bleach Arif's skin, if that's what you're into. Plenty of things over, including Hell League merchandise, because it's almost time to start collecting names for the Hell League. So that'll be happening.
Did you ever send Threadless an email about like, hey, so there's 2 people on this podcast, and one of them notably is brown, and we've uploaded an image where it reflects that reality, and yet when it gets like, did you send that email?
I don't remember that I was told to send that.
Oh, come, Jesus.
I'm starting to be weaned, or I'm starting to wean myself off of the medicine that causes me to forget why I'm in a room. Like legitimately. I was driving to work the other day and I knew I was in East Grand Forks, but I didn't know why until like, I was like, oh, that's right. I'm driving. I'm going onto the highway. I'm going out to work. Like I legitimately stopped and could not remember why I was like.
That sounds so dangerous.
Oh, incredibly so. I'm not disagreeing with you. No one should be on gabapentin for any reason. For as long as I have been, but I'm starting to get weaned off of that, and as a result, I'm gaining. It does feel like the next morning after you like have a bender, like you're slowly like gaining brain function.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, I am slowly getting that. So when I get a little bit more brain function, I will be sure to email Threadless and ask why you are Caucasian,
right?
On here.
What does it say about the podcast that you've never been more well received than when you've been experiencing brain damage?
Look, empathy takes many forms, and you and I already spoke about why what happens to me after a certain hour, and I don't want to go into that. So instead, we are going to get into the show and discuss the hiring of our new GM, Nolan Teasley.
Kaler.
Nolan Kaler Teasley. We're going Canadian this time around.
Yeah, they got a CFL GM. So they got the Seahawks assistant general manager. There was an interview I saw that he did with someone else who I was going to name the person, and I don't think that they would mind, but it was like he sent it to me as a private unlisted YouTube link, and so I don't want to like blow up his spot. I think he's using it for his other content or whatever, so I don't want to like blow him up. But he sent it to me after the hire, and one of the things that from the interview that comes out is he asks like, what does an assistant general manager do? Which is a like really good question, right? Like, come on, like that's so vague, right? So first he makes like a joke about The Office, like of course, right? And then he was like, yeah, so I think like last time someone asked like, what does a general manager do? And they said, well, they generally manage. And I would like to think that I assist in generally managing. So,
I mean, it's a good line.
Yeah, it's a great line. So he has a sense of humor, at least, right? That's nice. He has a pro scouting background. So for people unfamiliar, pro scouting is both the advanced scouting that, up to 4 games in advance, you're watching a team, but usually often the team next week or the team 2 weeks from now, you're watching their game. For people who remember one of the many Patriots spying scandals, one of them was that they would send the people who were doing the Do Your Job documentary series out with the advanced scouting team. And again, they just like watch the opponent that they're going to be playing in 2 weeks. And they were filming the signals, just like Spygate, like 10 years prior, right? Like phenomenal stuff that they kept it going. I think it was like the Bengals or something like that. But yeah, like there is an advanced scouting unit that will will be at the games and looking for things that you also often look for on film, like tendencies and formations and stuff like that. But they will also be looking at the coaching signals, and they're legally allowed to do that. It's the recording that was the issue. And all the other stuff that you won't be able to get on the broadcast. They'll be looking at the sideline to see communication and stuff like that. So that's part of pro scouting. The other really kind of the element of pro scouting that people are very familiar with is evaluating players in the league so that teams can, make decisions about like free agents. And often the pro scouts are very responsible for figuring out bottom of the roster stuff or figuring out who to call in the middle of the season after an injury and you need to add depth. Like, it doesn't take a lot of pro scouting to be like, we should trade for Myles Garrett, right? Like that doesn't require like a ton of like, we got to call up our scouting department to see if Myles Garrett is good, right? It's more like, okay, we need another defensive tackle. We've got this guy from the UFL. We've got this guy that's been on 3 teams in 2 years. We've got this undrafted free agent that we had for camp. Like, which one should we sign, right? And they'll help kind of make that decision. So he was on that side, which is a very traditional form of scouting. He also managed the Seahawks analytics department, and both in terms of assigning them projects, which is like, here's what I want you to work on so we can figure out the answer or the solution to this or to give us more information on this thing. And also integration, finding a way for the analytics department to connect with other departments around the team so that there's a lot of communication between the data, the conclusions of the data, and the people who need access to that data, and interpretable in a way that's really useful. So that means, the nutritionist, that means the strength and conditioning, that means obviously the front office, right? In terms of like players to acquire. There's a separate, they did a lot of analytics on the draft and all of that, and like how to combine all of those. And one of his jobs was to make sure that the combination of these factors is as seamless as possible so that when they're constructing the draft board, they have an appropriate mixture of insights from, the traditional scouts who are watching the film and stuff like that, and insights from the analytics department, which a lot of teams are very good at now, but that is like kind of one of the things that he did. And one of the things that you do is you either train in a traditional scout to do analytics work, which usually often have a degree in that already, or train in an analytics person to speak kind of scouting language or speak in a way that kind of is easily interpretable by our front office. So there's like a lot of those. Anyway, he did both things. So there is some level of kind of universality to his approach, which might be really interesting. Now, I've mentioned before, right, that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah wasn't actually a very analytics-minded GM, as far as we can tell, in terms of the decisions that the Vikings made with him at the helm. I wrote about that over at Wide Left, of course. And how a lot of people in analytics spaces around the NFL were actually really disappointed by the way that he was going about making a lot of his decisions. So we might actually have a more analytically forward front office this time around. I don't know. But yeah, he was regarded as a high level candidate for a general manager position. Ben Standig over at his own newsletter now, he was a colleague of mine at The Athletic. He asked a bunch of agents around the NFL, like, who should be kind of like the next GM or who should be the hottest name in general managers next time around. And Nolan Teasley, I think, got like 2 votes, which ties him for like 4th with a bunch of people. I think Mike Sando asked a bunch of people, and Nolan Teasley was near the top of a bunch of lists, like I think 2nd. I asked a bunch of people about Nolan Teasley. So those 2 asked about generally who would you like. I asked about the Vikings general manager candidates. The people I talked to thought Nolan Teasley was the 2nd best candidate that the Vikings brought in after Chad Alexander, who I believe was offered a 2nd interview and chose to turn it down. So really kind of well-regarded candidate who's got experience in a lot of different areas. But also, like, it's always tough to tell like what a GM is going to do. So he did get. I shouldn't say he got rid of Ryan Grigson. He reassigned Ryan Grigson to a new, different role, and Grigson did not like it, so he left to go back to the Browns. So I think everyone thinks that's a win, right? But they also did bring in Ryan Pace and another guy. I think Capadia. I think his last name is Capadia. I don't know anything about the other guy. We also do know about Ryan Pace, former Bears GM that did not have a good time, which is why he's a former Bears GM. I'm not hugely against it. The thing with Ryan Grigson was that he seemingly was involved with one decision that we know of, and it wasn't a good decision. That was drafting Ed Ingram. But we don't really know his impact, and so it's really hard to tell. But like a guy who's pretty open about his failures as a general manager is often a really good teacher. So I wouldn't overreact to having had Ryan Grigson or having Ryan Pace. But yeah, is there anything I should cover that we didn't cover? Wait, no, hold on. The Vikings brought in what's his name? Andrew Healy, the an analytics person from the Browns, the guy who helped pioneer the quarterback evaluation system at Football Outsiders, which originally was called the Lewin Career Forecast and then became Cubase when this guy took over. And it was, at the time, a fairly innovative way to look at college statistics to see how you can use those to project players' performance into the NFL. If you look at the 2024 draft and you look at the Cubase scores, which he wasn't involved in, he was with the team, right? But the Football Outsiders, and then when they left or when they collapsed, the FTN Fantasy Network, which is where a lot of it lives, but also ESPN, which is where Aaron Schatz has taken a lot of his stuff when he's not writing at FTN. We know what the Cubase scores for all the quarterbacks in the 2024 draft were. And JJ McCarthy did, on average, and this isn't the right way to look at Cubase, but sure, on average, scored higher than Drake May. So do with that what you will. Now that I've covered that stupid tidbit, anything else?
I mean, what other changes have been done as far as the front offices are concerned for the Vikings? I believe Rob is still sticking around, isn't he?
Yeah, so they made so Rob is moved back to his old position as lead contract negotiator, executive VP. They made like 4 changes in terms of departures, and 2 of them were Kwesi Adofo-Mensah hires. So let me see if I can find it, because I think Alec Lewis reported on all of it. So they lost out on Demetrius Washington, Pat Roberts, Sally Clavel, and this one was the most interesting, Jamal Stevenson. So Jamal Stevenson was, for a while, he'd won a couple of awards. He was the director of college scouting for a while, and then he took like a senior personnel position. That one is kind of interesting because the Vikings he's survived multiple front offices. The Vikings valued him a lot. So I don't know if it was he was offered a particular position and he decided to leave. He'd been with the Vikings for like 24 seasons after being a college scout in 2002. And he was briefly like a co-director of player personnel. So I don't know what's up with that. I don't know what's up with that departure. But Demetrius Washington was hired by Kwesi Adofo-Mensah when he came in. He had spent like a bunch of years over with the 49ers in the research and development department. 5 of those years overlapped with Kwesi. And I think Sally Clavel was a pro scout that Kwesi brought over as well. So those were 4 changes. Like I said, they brought in 2 guys, Capadia and the other assistant general manager, as well as the Andrew Healy guy that I just mentioned. I believe his name is Andrew Healy. I should look that up. Ryan Grigson left, and Rob Brzezinski, who had been interviewing for the general manager job along with all those other people, gets moved back to his vice president of player personnel or whatever role it was, EVP role of some sort, where he is like the lead contract negotiator again. So he moves back into his old role.
So obviously Kwesi was not well regarded for his drafting.
Yeah.
But was much more in the way of a deal-making GM. Do we have any indication as to what we should expect this time around?
Not really. I think that the integration of kind of traditional scouting and analytically minded player acquisition is going to be kind of the talking point that the Vikings are going to be using. But what that means in practice, I don't know. I have had a lot of issues with the way the Browns had approached analytics early in their kind of analytics revolution era. But in terms of like what they do recently, not much. What the Seahawks have done recently, sometimes I have questions, right? The Seahawks don't always follow the consensus board or whatever. But like, I mean, Teasley said, guided by evaluation, anchored by data. That's the thing that he said. He has attended like the sports analytics conference, Sloan. Yeah, I don't know. We're probably not going to get too many off the wall picks, but it very much seems like one or two of the picks every year is going to be, it's going to feel bonkers relative to the consensus board. And that actually, I don't mind that. Like, I think that that's like not a bad approach to drafting. I think most of the time you should probably be somewhat aligned to the consensus board, except when a player like falls pretty dramatically. And then, there's probably a background reason that the consensus board is unaware of that they are. But for the most part, like, the Seahawks, outside of when they draft running backs, had been drafting pretty well. So, yeah.
Well, we have that to look forward to. I do think it's funny that, like, we recorded and then, like, a day or two later, that ends up happening. It's like, well, no. We don't need an emergency pod for the new GM in the beginning of June.
Yeah. We're especially because we don't, like, if it was a coach, maybe we could talk about the things the coach, but, like, with the GM, there's even less we know.
Yeah. So let's move on to a story that won't die. A story about hugging an Italian. A story about getting out of a parking, out of a speeding ticket, I believe. And what the bigger implication is on all of the Viking side of things with the Diana Rossini revelation of sorts. Initially, it had been reported that in addition to all of these things that she was involved in, that aren't a great look for someone who is an industry insider. But apparently there was a speeding ticket, and in order to attempt to get out of the speeding ticket, the original thing was to get a video call with the coach of the team that the highway patrolman or policeman liked. And originally that was the Browns, wasn't it?
No, I don't think actually. She said this on a podcast, right? Which what? You just said this. So she was what? She was in California, and she mentioned. I'm just remembering this vaguely, but she mentioned the two teams in the area that she was, and I believe it was like the Rams and the Chargers, and the coach was like, and the officer was like, "Yeah, so what? Who cares?" She's like, "Well, what's your team?" And he says the team, and then she's like, "Well, I can FaceTime my coach." I don't think we knew what that team was at the time, or I don't think she said the team at the time. But of course, we later learned it was the Vikings for some reason.
So it turned out to be the Vikings. Where she had even said to Jay that you don't have a quarterback or your quarterback sucks.
And he's like, yeah, I got to get one of those, which is like every conversation that you have in real life with a fan of whatever team, right?
Be like, sure, great, fine. But like, this highlights some interesting potential implications as far as where all of that information was coming from, as far as Aaron Rodgers stuff or all of the stuff involving JJ McCarthy's durability, questions involving Kwesi's firing and the whole dumb situation about his paternity leave and all that. So there's more questions here than there should be.
Yeah, like yes and no. So the one thing that I'm kind of reminded of is what a poor job that like we like, and by that I mean like sports writers or people in sports reporting, what a poor job we've done at kind of talking about sports reporting and like how it occurs and what are kind of the normal practices. And I say this because I don't want, like, I think a lot of people have responded to some news about sports reporting with like, well, this is how it's done. And it's like, well, okay, if all of us don't know that, then that means we haven't communicated. That's not like the audience's fault for not knowing, right? And that's kind of one of the things is like, it was not remotely surprising to me that like Kevin O'Connell is in her phone at all. That's not surprising at all. He is in the phone logs of every single insider that we have, right? So Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, Albert Breer, Diana Rossini, they all have Kevin O'Connell's number. And I think a lot of people have been like, that's the leak. That's who keeps telling Diana Rossini stuff. And it's like, well, if you don't know that much about sports reporting, and why would you? You're an accountant. Like, why would you need to know that, right? Or like, you know, you put up drywall, which God bless you if you put up drywall. Jesus, that's a job. Sounds like it sucks. But like you put up drywall, like why would you, right? It doesn't like that's not that important to your life. But I need to like tell you that it is extremely normal, expected, and actually you'd be bad at your job if you didn't have every head coach's phone number. That's what it is. So the way that a lot of scoops can occur, and I'm not saying Kevin O'Connell is providing any or all of the scoops related to the Vikings. For a lot of insiders, not every one of them, but the ones that we care about, Ian Rappaport, Albert Breer, Adam Schefter, probably Diana Rossini, the reason that you get access to these scoops, aside from you're having an affair with one of the coaches, right? If that use case aside,
ignoring that.
Yeah. It's because you're providing something of value to them. Now, that's not how these initial relationships start. Like a lot of times you're just a really good hang. Like your vibes are good, right? Like you like remember personal details about them. You check in with them. You say like, happy anniversary. How are your kids? That kind of stuff. But like at some point you're providing something for them, which is why they go to you and not the local beat to break news. In the cases where they feel the need that they would want to break news before it's officially announced or something like that. I think a lot of people think that all of the breaking news comes from agents, and like given the nature of like all of the tweets that break news over the past 2 years, I can't blame you for believing that. That makes sense. Jesus Christ, these are all copy and pasted from agent texts. But they're usually providing inside information to those coaches that is not publicly reported yet, that those coaches can take advantage of. And if you think that that's unethical, I think that's fair. Right. But that is what it is. Right. I don't think it's unethical necessarily, but like I get it. Right. So like a good example of this, and I was thinking about this and I totally forgot to look it up because I forgot who it was. I want to say it was the Eagles, but if it was, I can't remember who it was. But like a prominent player for the Eagles was going to be suspended, and that was, or whatever other team. Again, my memory is not working right now. And we found this out like right before the NFL draft, right? And so we're like, oh my God, their first round pick has to be different, right? Because this guy's getting suspended, like a wide receiver or whatever, right? So that changes all of our mock drafts, throw those out the window. That changes what every team is going to do. An insider had told that team that that was going to happen a week before the team found out officially. Like that's so useful to have, right? And so it allowed them to adjust their draft plans before the draft to accommodate this fact. And there's like a million ways that this can actually, like that's a huge high impact way. There's a million ways this can actualize in low impact and high impact ways. So yeah, learning about a suspension coming down from the league or the league office, letting that team know, but also letting a team know that a player that they might be interested in could be hitting the market or is even on the market, right? Before it gets announced. And so the team is prepared and, sends their pro scouting department that we just talked about into the film room to take a look at this player or whatever, right? Stuff like that, right? Coaching transactions before they happen, little tidbits from agents about what they're looking for. Stuff that probably violates league rules, right? Like using reporters as intermediaries to tell players or to tell teams what players are looking for before they're officially able to talk to those players, which that already happens at the combine anyway. So like whatever, but like they provide something transactional to those coaches, and then those coaches might provide them with insights. Now, the reason I keep hesitating before I say the word coaches is because I keep on wanting to say coaches and GMs and scouts and whatever, because I guarantee you that there are more than 2 people in the Vikings organization that Diana Rossini has the contact information for. Kevin O'Connell is one of them. Very likely the GM is another one. Almost certainly there's somebody in an executive or evaluation position within the Vikings organization that talks to Diana Rossini or talked to Diana Rossini. And this is true for Breer and Schefter and so on, right? The fact that it was Kevin O'Connell's number that we're aware of had appeared there doesn't tell us about how she learned any particular story. And while I think, audiences shouldn't be blamed for not knowing how a lot of this reporting works, which fair enough, right? I do think it is a little stupid to immediately come to the conclusion that Kevin O'Connell is providing her all the leaks that she reports on. Like, you have to take the next step and think, how could this be not true? And the answer is very simple. She also has someone else's number, right? Like, please think about that for a second. Like, I understand if you think it's like a weird scandal that she has Kevin O'Connell's number, because you just don't know how the industry kind of has normalized this sort of thing. Fine. But like, to immediately conclude that that's the only way she could have access to Vikings information, please think a little harder. So that's like my take on that. I guess it's not a good look. I think what's really funny, though, is I couldn't read the text, and I assume that anybody who's tried to enhance the text to see what they say doesn't know how computers work or, whatever. But it is funny that it's like a wall of multiple texts from her and barely any responses from Kevin O'Connell. That's hilarious. Also, like, it is unethical that she tried to get out of a ticket by using her connections as a reporter, whether or not there was a FaceTime. It is further unethical that she lied about it for a story, to make it sound even worse than it was, which is crazy. But like, yeah, she said she got on a FaceTime call with the coach, and then the coach said, let her off. And which makes her sound like such a badass, right? Like, which is why she would tell the story. But also that's crazy unethical to do if it were true, and a different kind of unethical that you're lying about it. What in the world are you doing? And then the police department released, by the way, so like a journalist submitted an FOIA request for body cam footage of the stop. Like, they had gone through a bunch of police reports and figured out that this was the stop she was talking about based off like the timing and attention to detail and stuff like that. So he got the audio and the video from that Freedom of Information Act request. And the police department released a statement saying, yeah, we didn't do anything wrong here. You can just like let people off the hook. It's the officer's discretion, right? Which is like true, right? But like, very obviously the officer did that because he was really enamored by the contact with his favorite team, which feels like you shouldn't be able to do that, right? Which, like, we know officers do it because they like find the driver hot. Like, I know, right? But like, that's bad. Like, you get that that's bad. Like, discretion, probably very good. How the discretion often gets exercised, probably very bad. And this is one example of that. And the police department was like, yeah, we see no problem here. Like, okay, sure.
I don't even know if ethically it's the worst thing I've heard an insider do in the last, 48 hours or anything. I mean, There's some news coming out about Schefter and Robert Kraft involved in a betting thing that.
Yeah, that one's crazy. I haven't learned a ton about that. I saw his name brought up in that respect. Also, obviously, not the most unethical thing Diana Rossini has been alleged to do in the past 5 months, right? But like,
oh God, no.
Like, that's close, but like, Jesus, come on! Like, she told the story on a podcast, and like, no one was like, "Hey, wait a minute," which just goes to tell you, you could say anything on a podcast, you're fine.
Yeah, I mean, in our case, who's going to listen?
Yeah, right?
2 million times. Well, let's move on to, I guess, the thing about obviously the offseason. There's just not a lot of things to talk about, especially in the month of June. But the biggest thing that had come out over the past, say, month or so was the quarterback who was trying his best to get into playing again for college football, or trying to make it into the supplemental draft or the CFL, just trying to play this year. And it was a big story that had a number of different layers to it. And it felt like a big middle finger to the NCAA, thanks to court. And instead, has basically been told, you are going to sit out for a year, and you are not going to circumvent. You're not going to find a way to play. You're not going to find a way to play football this year, and you're going to have to deal with that, regardless of the fact the court said the NCAA had no right to shut you down.
Yeah. So Brendan Sorsby bet, what was it, 1,200 times, over $90,000, I want to say, on college football games, including games that his team was playing in. And, Pete Rose, like, I bet on them to win, which, yeah, okay, man. Like, I don't disbelieve you. I bet you did bet on them to win, but like, that's not a defense. Yeah, a crazy saga with Brendan Sorsby where, the NCAA barred him indefinitely for a season. He sued. The preliminary injunction on that from the court was that he would be able to play the season, but I think suspended for 2 games or something like that. I don't remember. And then the Big 12 was like, well, we're not the NCAA, so like that actually doesn't bind us. We're going to suspend any team that plays Texas Tech. And so Texas Tech is just off the Big 12 schedule. And so instead of Sorsby suing the Big 12, which my understanding of the law is that that's more difficult, which, sure, I don't know, man. Like, I couldn't tell you, but that's what my understanding is. He just decided to declare for the supplemental draft. So he fills out the paperwork, declares for the supplemental draft. The NFL waits a couple of weeks, really late, actually. The supplemental draft is usually done by the time the NFL made its decision. Sends a letter specifically to Brendan Sorsby, and also announces that they will not be holding a supplemental draft. That means because he can't declare for a draft that is not occurring, because I guess technically he didn't declare, he applied for special eligibility to declare, so that was declined. And because he can't declare for the draft, that means he didn't declare for the draft, which means he cannot sign as an undrafted free agent. Like, that is the requirement, right? So he doesn't have like a season in the NFL. And then as it was being floated that he could enter the CFL draft, the CFL was like, no, you can't. So I don't even know if they tried. And the CFO was like, get away. Nope, not happening. You gambled. That's bad. Which, like, good take. But so Jeffrey Kessler, who has sued the NFL on behalf of the NFLPA before, then announces that the NFL violated both the law and the CBA, which brings up 2 questions. One, does them violating the CBA matter? Can they violate the CBA for a player who is not in the NFLPA and therefore not covered by the CBA? Interesting. 2, did they violate the CBA? Is that? No way. Right? Like, those are the 2 questions. The first question, yeah, based off of everything I've read, absolutely the NFL can violate the CBA by unfairly restricting the employment opportunity of someone who is not yet in the NFL. Jeffrey Kessler actually argued this and lost in the Maurice Claret case a number of years ago when Claret wanted to declare for the draft after his freshman season at Ohio State. They argued it was an unfair restriction on labor and that the CBA should not apply to him because he is not a member of the NFLPA. That was Jeffrey Kessler's argument on behalf of Maurice Claret. And the courts ruled that it is not an unfair restraint on labor because the existence of a CBA prevents it from being an unfair restraint on labor, and that the CBA applies to not just current but prospective athletes. And that has been well understood because the CBA has governed the behavior of rookies before they've entered the draft, which is what allowed them to impose a rookie salary cap. And in fact, the draft would be unconstitutional, or not unconstitutional, would be illegal if the CBA did not bind players who are not yet players. So using that understanding, using the very reasoning that Jeffrey Kessler lost in the first case, he would win that the CBA, at least in theory, I'm not a lawyer and I don't know these things for fact, but my understanding, based off of reading a number of articles that were linked by Wikipedia, right? So these are like real articles, not Wikipedia itself, which is better, right? That's what we keep telling people to do.
Well, it's what our parents told us to do, was to go to the articles.
Yeah, but then they got tricked by AI videos. So what do they know?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
But that seems to be good, right? Like people who write about the law professionally and with some degree of respect and reputation have indicated that this is the kind of thing that would allow Brendan Sorsby to be covered by the CBA. So if the NFL violates the CBA, that would matter here. Did they? There is one kind of throwaway line in the CBA about the supplemental draft, and it basically says if the NFL chooses to hold one, which suggests, of course, that the NFL can determine whether or not to hold the supplemental draft, but it doesn't outline the process by which they make that determination. And so I believe that Jeffrey Kessler would probably make the argument along the lines of the NFL made this decision with like unfair bias or prejudice against Brendan Sorsby and have functionally punished him without using the CBA mechanisms to punish him. And that's important because then he cannot seek relief through the CBA mechanisms, right? So like when the NFL like suspended Deshaun Watson like indefinitely or something, or for 11 games or whatever, the NFLPA appealed and got it down to 6 games, and then the NFL sued to get it back up to 11 or something like that. It was a whole thing, right? And the NFLPA said that you were applying too arbitrary a judgment. And like, yeah, we all hate Deshaun Watson. That kind of sucks that happened. But the point is that there is a mechanism, an arbitration and dispute mechanism within the CBA to protect players and the NFL in a world where they have to adjudicate player behavior, right? And his behavior is being adjudicated in a way that doesn't allow him to access the dispute mechanisms which they have agreed upon to be fair, right? And so he can't go to arbitration about it. So that might be Jeffrey Kessler's argument. Also, somebody was like, well, ADA, right? It's gambling addiction is like a mental health concern. So the NFL is discriminating against him, which is like an interesting argument, but I don't think it'll hold up. Like the ADA doesn't prevent you from not hiring someone who physically cannot lift 50 pounds if the job requires them to lift 50 pounds, right? Like there are exceptions in the ADA. And I would imagine gambling addiction is one of them when the job is sports, right? Like, I don't know, but like,
you would have had a much better, he had a much better time arguing that the actual bylaws and like the mission statement of the NCAA showed why he should still be allowed to play football for the NCAA.
Right.
Yeah. Betterment of like the betterment of athletes.
Yes.
Like all that. He had a much better chance of saying, yes, this is why I should be able to do it here as opposed to the NFL.
Yeah. That would be my opinion as well. Right. Like, again, I don't know if he'd win the ADA case, but I would imagine that he wouldn't. I don't know, man. Shoot your shot. Lawyers sometimes just submit a bunch of arguments, right? So like, go for it. But yeah, I actually think that like, so a bunch of people have been like, there's no chance that he wins this, and that was my initial thought. And then I read some stuff and thought about it, and I read some stuff, and I think he's got like a reasonable chance of winning this one, which is kind of nuts. The NFL has allowed other players who have admitted to gambling in college into the NFL. Hunter Deckers is a good case. He declared for the draft, wasn't a drafted free agent, was signed by a team, right? And Brendan Sorsby did not get to do that. Terrell Pryor avoided the draft process and used the suspension that he had in college as an excuse to enter the supplemental draft, according to the NFL, which is why he got a 5-game suspension after, I don't know, what was it, getting tattoos for free or something like that? Like something egregious.
It was incredibly stupid, and yes.
Yeah, something so unethical that he should have been shot into the sun. Like, I can't believe you got a tattoo for free, you monster.
I mean, Reggie Bush and his and the multiple trophies.
Yeah, and the multiple trophies, the multiplying trophies. But like, yeah, and so they suspended him. My understanding is, again, not specifically for the behavior in college, but rather for manipulating the supplemental draft system. I don't know, but they allowed him in. They allowed Hunter Deckers in. And so that kind of precedent would suggest that the NFL is behaving like arbitrarily or capriciously or something like that. And you can't have that either. Like, that would violate, I think, the law, probably. Again, I don't have a degree, much less a law degree. So, you know, take it all with like a boulder of salt.
We'd like to once again remind people that this is not there's nothing that you hear here should be constituted as legal advice, gambling advice.
Any advice, the parenting advice corner, that's not advice. Don't listen to us.
Yeah.
Anything we say should not be constituted as blank advice.
Let's go with that. Let's go to the mailbag. Plenty of stuff in here. There is some stuff about football, but mostly it's off topic. So if you are listening for the football, I got to tell you that that ship has probably sailed.
Sure.
Logan asks, how's Arif doing? Is he okay? Any big feelings today? Need a gallon of espresso or a hug?
It's crazy that you asked that, because I spent like a 20-minute session before this podcast telling James all the stuff that's happening in my life over the past week and a half. Like, we haven't recorded in 3 weeks? I only gave James the past week and a half, and he was like, what in the world is going on in your life? And I'm like, I don't know, man. So I guess a lot of big feelings. I would love a gallon of espresso. I did actually, just right before the Lockdown After Dark, I did tell Amazon to send me a 50-pack or 48-pack, of Costco brand 5-hour energy shots.
So we're getting to that point.
I'm not going to consume them all at once. Remember, there's only 29 hours in a day. We've established this.
We have established this. This is canon. You cannot do otherwise.
Yeah.
The Rabble Rouser asks, since the quarterback room seems pretty lackluster this year, could Arif break down the quarterback options for the Vikings in terms of food court restaurants? Yeah,
so I went a little outside of food court restaurants with the first one. I believe I've seen this one in a food court. But like, you know, it's not just fast food like McDonald's, right? Like, you've got your whatever local quick service Asian food that offers free samples that are insanely addictive. And then the rival one, which is a slightly different type of Asian food. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
And then you've got like your we make steak sandwiches thing that are way too expensive. And then, you know, like in your Sbarro and your Long John Silver's and stuff like that, right? Like, so not just fast food, but mostly fast food. So the first one I went with was Kyler's KFC. The reason for that is because KFC used to be really good. Not amazing, right? It's KFC. But it used to be like really good, right? Like you could rock with it for a little bit, and then it just declined a lot, and you're not like really sure why. Some like mechanical problems, of course, some internal mechanisms, kind of a weird way of presenting yourself, not doing your homework, that kind of stuff. But mostly we were just like, what in the world is happening to KFC? But every so often, KFC, sometimes I'll order KFC because Uber Eats is doing an insane 2-for-1 deal. And it's like, well, I could either get Popeyes, which I love and is better, or I could get twice as much fried chicken for slightly less. So like the cost of a 3-piece at Popeyes is what I'm getting for 7 pieces of chicken at KFC. And there's probably a reason for that, right? But I'm pressing order. And most of the time, I'm disappointed. I made the wrong decision. But sometimes I'm pretty happy. Sometimes whatever local KFC just got it together that day and put together an outstanding like meal deal with the chicken is still crispy. It doesn't feel gross. The spicy is spicy. It's pretty good. So I think that's a pretty good comparison to KFC, right? Like I feel like that matches Kyler pretty well.
So the rest of the room then.
Yeah. So JJ McCarthy is Sbarro. Like you get it. Like you see the vision, right? Like, oh, it's pizza and it's ready made.
Michael Scott's favorite quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah. Which he would be, wouldn't he? You get it.
The leg kick for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you look at the Sbarro and you see the vision. It makes so much sense. It's pizza. How could you screw up pizza? Well,
it turns out.
And the thing is, Sbarro does other stuff, and the other stuff is better, but people only remember the pizza. 1, because that's why you're there. 2, because of The Office. But the other stuff is like pretty good, but that's not what you're asking it to do. JJ McCarthy is like a pretty reasonable runner, right? But like, come on, dude. Like, we're not asking you to make like lasagna. Anyone could do that. Please.
I swear at an airport somewhere I had like stromboli from a Sbarro's, and just like 2 bites in, like, nope, we're done. I can't.
Yeah, right.
How did you mess up something you have to reheat like this?
Right. Yeah. Like how? Like what in the world? How are you around, man? How? Like what is? Why do I still see you places? Who is sustaining this business? So that's how I feel about Sbarro and a little bit about JJ McCarthy. But like it could get good. There is a vision for it. It's pizza. All right. Carson Wentz is TCBY. So I Googled TCBY to see if I recalled this correctly before the show. Did you know they still exist? I had no idea.
There is one in Vegas that we would go by on when we were like in the cab. I forget which casino we were going to, but I remember like having to like do a triple take. Like, oh my god, there's a TCBY here. I need a parfait. I need the 3 levels, and I need gummy bears in all of them. Like this is exactly. I remember my childhood order. I need a parfait. I need it right now.
Yeah, right. So, what in the world happened? Why? Like how? So I didn't think it was still around, and it's still like just like you said. It just pops up when you don't expect it, and it's doing its job, I guess. But it's like, okay, you showed up way before the frozen yogurt craze. Way before. You were the name in frozen yogurt. People didn't even know that you could have frozen yogurt without you around, right? And then the frozen yogurt craze happened, and they were like the last ones to capitalize. I feel like they shrunk during the
literally in the name.
It's in the name.
Yogurt.
The country's best yogurt. Like, what are you doing? And it's like some new company called Pinkberry cucked you on frozen yogurt. What are you doing? So yeah, a bunch of like you are the model, and then a bunch of people figured out how to do what you do better, and you got left behind, and now you're limping along, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, I remember that. That was like pretty decent, huh?" And it's not a bad, awful, world's worst experience, but probably you should just be playing tight end, right? Like, this would have been way better if you just like didn't do this and did it slightly differently, and everyone would have been happier. So yeah, I think that's a pretty decent comp, and yeah, TCBY was in food court, so I think that's fair. Max Brosmer's Long John Silver's objectively bad, but you know it's like someone's favorite, and you don't know like why. Like dog, we're in Wyoming. Why are you getting seafood? Right? Like,
somebody had posted online that like somebody was building a new Long John Silver somewhere.
What?
Like,
new?
Really? Like the building, the building is going up. It looks like the shanty. Like it's got that
Right. Yeah.
look to it. It's a thing. So here's the thing. Like there are people in this world that really really like that and will absolutely pound the table for it.
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody pounds the table for Johnny Rockets.
I mean, okay, like the only issue I have with Johnny Rockets is that it's like too pricey for what it is. But it's fine. It's like, well, actually, I would argue it's pretty good. It's just like way too pricey for it, you know?
I don't know. Between Long John Silvers and Johnny Rockets, yeah.
You would take Long John Silvers over Johnny Rockets?
I think I would take the potential botulism from Long John Silvers.
That's crazy. Max Brosmer did win a game though, so.
Well, it was the day that the health inspector was coming by, and they just happened to have taken out a big bucket of the purple stuff to clean everything. Bob the Bull Sharif asks, for Reef's getting away with it corner, who is the lowest ranking member of the Vikings organization who you could name drop to get you out of a ticket?
Lowest ranking member of the organization.
Is Greenway associated with the organization? I'd have to check.
Okay, well, if we're talking about who I could name drop, no one, right? Like I can't be like, I got Nolan Teasley's number. I don't have it. But if we're just talking about like, okay, so like ownership, if you say I know the Wilfs, yeah, you'll probably get out of the ticket. Even if it's like Stephen Wilf, right? Like the fifth Wilf.
Yeah.
Mentioning
Stephen Wilf might get your car back.
Yeah, right, exactly. You could say, a minority owner like the Landises, right? Like that might get you something. And then you go down, you say, hey, Nolan Teasley, that would count. Probably not anyone else on the executive staff. So probably not Lester Bagley or Jeff Anderson. Maybe Rob Brzezinski. Probably not Andrew Miller, who's the chief operating officer. I don't think anybody in the executive staff. On the FO side, I know the assistant GM of the Vikings. Maybe that guy, the officer would have to be a diehard, right? And then after that, Tyler Hamlin, the director of football strategy, no. Ryan Pace probably will get you a bigger ticket, right? Like that's
yes, actually, yes.
That's probably not helpful. Jasama Para, probably not. Azam Kapadia, that's it. Yeah, I think you have to go down to assistant GM, and for assistant GM to work, you'd have to have a diehard. Maybe you could say a college area scout for the Vikings. That would actually do you better than Ryan Pace. But generally speaking, I think that's about as low as you could go.
Yeah. Skimble Shanks the Railway Cat asks, for Reefs, I'm sorry to that one Detroit fan in the Discord corner.
Yeah, why do we have that?
They are a fantastic listener and a fantastic supporter.
No, they love us. I don't get it. I love that you love us, but like, huh?
I know of at least 2 Lions fans who listen to this podcast. Where does the Lions 2024 draft class rank in the pantheon of all-time bad drafts? So why would this be a thing that could come up?
So a member of the Detroit Lions was recently released by the Detroit Lions, and that member happened to be their first-round pick. He was involved in an elaborate scheme. Let's take the time to talk about it. So Terrion Arnold, the first-round pick, quarterback from Alabama, drafted in 2024, was, I believe, in Florida, and evidently had $250,000 of his stuff stolen, like Louis Vuitton bags, his watch, that kind of stuff, right? Tells the police say they're on it. He does not believe the police. So far, I very much sympathize with Terrion Arnold. Everything after this, I don't. He decides the police are not going to solve this problem, so he's going to solve it himself. He and 6 of his alleged friends. And again, all of this is alleged. Alleged. This is what I've heard secondhand, right? But evidently, he and 6 of his alleged friends find 3 people that they think did it and lure them to an apartment. And by lure, I mean hire some attractive women who I am to understand allegedly are sex workers, which is fine. Sex workers work, right? But like hires them to lure these men to an apartment where then they wait in the closet, which most of the time the scenario I've described is a very specific fetish and not like something that makes the news. And it's more like, I didn't know you were into that. But no, they as soon as these men are distracted, allegedly, they jump out of the closet, restrain them, and just beat the crap out of them. And I mean like really beat them, allegedly. Pistol whipping, breaking like bones and stuff like that, like really awful stuff. And I don't think that they were planning to acquire their stuff back. This seems just kind of like generalized punishment. And my understanding is that Terrion Arnold probably allegedly did not do the beating, but was the ringleader of this whole operation. Later, the police said, hey, not that that's important anymore, but I don't think any of these guys did it. I don't think they stole your stuff. I think you just picked 3 guys, which probably tells you a lot about like why when the system works, the police take their time, right? Like you can't just be doing this. So the Lions were like, I think you did that, and released him, right? Like, which like it takes a lot to release a first round pick. Use the first round pick to be released from the 2024 NFL draft, and like, duh, right? Like, it's not a huge shock that happened. But yeah, so he's a free agent today. An insider reported, I believe they directly attributed the agent actually, that 3 teams have reached out to talk to him. Which, okay.
I'm sure.
Yeah, right. If that is true, which we can't be certain of, right? And like also it could just be like, hey, if he gets off, right? Like if the cops determine that he did nothing wrong, or the prosecutor determines that there's nothing wrong, we're interested.
You've got a home in New Jersey.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Just come over. The Jets will have a perfect place for you.
Okay, so I think the 3 teams are the Browns, the Cowboys, and the Chiefs. That's my take. Someone else I was talking to suggested the Raiders, also a great take. Jets, awesome take. So yeah, that maybe, but like, is that the worst we've seen? No, we've seen first round picks cut that year, right? We saw what happened with Henry Ruggs. We saw going way back Demetrius Underwood. He didn't even show up to camp, right? Isaiah Wilson's the most recent example I can remember. He got traded. He was going to get cut. He got traded in February of 2021. He got drafted in 2020, which means he got traded before his second season in the NFL. Isaiah Wilson, first round pick for the Titans in 2020. So he was the offensive tackle from, I think, what was it, Georgia? And he just got up to stuff. Like, that's his deal. He got up to stuff. He was arrested for a DUI. He was arrested for leading police on a 140-mile-per-hour police chase. When they caught up to him, they found marijuana in his car. I believe, and he also sped in a construction zone. Dude, the fines double in construction zones. Come on.
We know this because that's all the highways are right now.
Right? Yeah. He also, I believe, shortly after he got traded, released an EP titled "Layup Lines," which I don't know if he knows what sport he's playing, but fine. Under the stage name GG Bowser, which is also a choice, I guess. But yeah, he got released earlier than, or he got traded earlier than Terrion Arnold was released. And so if we were to compare these 2024 draft classes, so the Lions 2024 draft class includes Terrion Arnold, of course, Ennis Rakestraw, which I've heard some people pronounce his last name Rakestraw. Sure. He has not, I believe, played a snap for the Lions. But yeah, so that hasn't gone well. Giovanni Manu, so he was the first player selected that year to be off the consensus board. That's because he played college football at the University of British Columbia. So he played in the U League in Canada. So he was not in the consensus board. Sione Vaki, the safety / running back from Utah, who has appeared on special teams, I want to say, and he was on their all rookie team for being a special teamer. Mekhi Wingo, who I don't know what he's done, but he was an LSU defensive tackle, one of like 3 nose tackles on an LSU team. And Christian Mahogany, who might actually be the best one. He might be starting actually this next year. We'll see who wins that competition. So that's like not a great draft class, right? I would say that Titans draft class is worse. Isaiah Wilson, Christian Fulton, which that was a consensus steal, right? Darrington Evans, Laurel Murchison, Cole McDonald, the quarterback from Hawaii, and Chris Jackson. I don't believe any of them are still on the Titans. Maybe Darrington Evans. Let me take a quick look. Christian Fulton was on the Titans, then the Chargers, then the Chiefs. Darrington Evans has been on 9 teams. Laurel Murchison on the Rams. Cole McDonald was a Titan, then a Cardinal, then an Argonaut, then a Roughneck, then an Elk. Chris Jackson was a Titan, then a Stallion, then an Elk. Yeah, that one seems like a worse class, if I'm being honest.
That's not great. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, this is like, we're hitting the bottom of the barrel for bad draft classes. This is up there.
Yeah. The Terrion Arnold thing is almost like the worst. I say the worst version. You remember when O.J. Simpson got in trouble for getting a posse together to get a bunch of his stuff back in Vegas in the hotel room? The thing that actually sent him to jail?
Yeah, against all odds, yeah.
Like, this seems like the worst possible version of that. Like, there was some documentary I had seen that was talking about that whole thing for O.J. Simpson, and like how it was like just bungled, and it was just like the one of the dumber things that he could have like been involved in, but he was just convinced this is what we needed to do, this is what we needed to do. And then like you look at the Terrion Arnold situation and be like, okay, so there were sex workers, and then like they jumped out of a closet.
Yeah,
like, this is out of a movie. Like,
it is. Like, yeah,
nobody does this. Like, if somebody does this, what ends up happening is the scene how that is like the Brad Pitt ending in Burn After Reading. Like, you come out of a closet. Like, that's what ends up happening here. Like, there's no winning here. And then it turns out, oh, these people might not have actually done it. Like, that's only like ancillary to the fact that this was a bad idea.
Dude, one of the best scenes out of one of the most underrated movies. Like, if you haven't seen Burn After Reading, stop listening to this podcast. Watch Burn After Reading. It's so good. It's so good.
It's just the chair. Look, everyone.
The meeting with the Russian embassy. Like, what is this?
Actually, we're gonna stop the mailbag now. We're just gonna do a watch along. It's probably it's on Netflix or Prime. It'll be fine.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
We'll just do that instead. Ben asks, if Kyler has a solid season, will the Vikings draft a quarterback or let Kyler play for a new team again, or should the Vikings commit to the only NFL quarterback shorter than Arif?
Wait, I'm like 7'2". They're all shorter than me.
They're all shorter than you. Why is that even a question?
The only professional athlete I'm aware of that's taller than me is Victor Wembanyama. So
yeah, that's obviously.
Yeah.
Ice Delonda asks, question for Arif's, why won't you just retire corner? That almost seems targeted at you.
Hey, man. Okay, that seems a little rough, given that the username of the person asking has ice in it. Like, hey, chill.
well, I'll tell you what. As somebody who just hit, was it 49 days on their Duolingo streak? I think in this particular instance.
Oh, I should start that, huh?
Well, no, we already determined I'm your interpreter, so we'll deal with that when the time comes. Question for Arif's: why won't you just retire corner as Aaron Rodgers returns for yet another NFL season? Who had a better final 5 seasons in aggregate, Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers? I know you don't have it for this year, but let's pretend he retired instead. My hunch is Brett Favre, but I don't know the numbers.
I appreciate the consideration that I cannot predict Aaron Rodgers' 2026. Yeah, so I ran the numbers, and it is actually just barely Aaron Rodgers, which actually is interesting because I think a lot of people would have assumed Aaron Rodgers was substantially better. Now, if you do it without adjusting for era, Aaron Rodgers wins by actually quite a substantial margin. But like you have to remember that like 2009 is way different than 2022, right? So all of that in mind, right? So Brett Favre had 6.0 adjusted net yards per attempt, and Aaron Rodgers had 6.5. Those rank like 28th for Aaron Rodgers, 51st for Brett Favre among all quarterbacks with at least 1,200 passing attempts in the final 5 years of their career. Now, mind you, that includes quarterbacks who are not retired yet. So it just includes the 5 most recent seasons for Patrick Mahomes, right? It includes the seasons for, well, it wouldn't be Bo Nix because he had 1,200 attempts yet. But like you get the idea. It's like some guy who's only had like 3 years in the NFL. So it's not like a great metric. I probably could have like parsed this a little bit better. But if we only look at how they ranked in EPA per play over those years, or in the EPA per play and completion percentage over expected composite that we see at rbsdon'tmatter.com, or in era adjusted net yards per attempt, which is a mouthful. Aaron Rodgers is a little bit better than Brett Favre in every category. So Brett Favre, his NEA plus, which is how it's referred to. So 100 is average for that season. And then every increment of 15 represents like one standard deviation. So you would be better than like 68%. I don't know how to do one-tailed distribution in my head. But like 68% of the population is within 85 to 115, and then like 95% and then 99.7% with 2 standard deviations to 3 standard deviations. So Brett Favre was a little bit above average at 105. Aaron Rodgers was quite a bit above average, but not substantially at 111. In EPA per play over the final 5 years, Brett Favre had 0.082 EPA per play, and Aaron Rodgers had 0.154. That is very substantial when you don't adjust it, but Brett Favre ranked 17th, and Aaron Rodgers ranked 12th. Now, when you account for like fumble returns and interception return lengths and a bunch of other context for EPA, and you also include some completion percentage metrics, Brett Favre ranked 15th and Aaron Rodgers ranked 12th. So honestly, not that far apart. And I thought they were substantially more far apart. Aaron Rodgers was slightly better in his final 5 years, but don't worry about it. He does have another season to screw it up. Because remember, Brett Favre's final season was catastrophic, and I fully hope and maybe even expect that Aaron Rodgers' final season will be along the same lines and push him below Brett Favre, which would be funny. Let's revisit this near our final episode, question mark?
Yes, when the turf is frozen, much like it was on that
on that fateful day
out at then TCF Bank Stadium, when Brett Favre was bouncing off of the concrete like field.
The GIF edit that like evaporates him, disintegrates him, so that you could see the chalk outline of him. My God, incredible work.
Yeah. So we'll move past that and go to the mailman, who asks, for James's team history corner, which Vikings transaction, trade or free agent signing, left you feeling like you died in a freak colonoscopy accident? Everybody knows Arif's answer. So the reason why this is funny is because Bill Simmons, who everyone expected to come out with a reaction pod to a terrible trade that the Celtics made yesterday.
Yeah, they traded away Jaylen Brown for whatever, right?
He couldn't do the show because he had just come out of a colonoscopy. He had just, and the line was, there's
a couple of lines, actually.
There's a couple of great lines from it that were explaining that he woke up from it, and his wife was telling him this in the car, that the trade happened, and that these were the things, and he went, I died.
Yes.
I died while I was put under anesthesia. This is ridiculous. That can't be real. And he just accepted his fate. Like, this is what happened.
I think I'm dead. I think I died. The anesthesia killed me, and now I'm a dead person.
Yeah. Which, look, he still has his fastball. Like, it doesn't. There are shows of his that are not good at all.
Are we allowed to say the other quote?
Yes, go for it. Here's the cursing portion.
Yeah. When this trade happened, I had a camera in my ass, and I had Paul George rammed up my ass.
So, yes.
That's how I'm going to remember July 1st, 2026.
Yep. So, he had himself a rough time. I want to say that most of the bad free agent signings were ones that, like, I had an inkling it was about to happen, so it wasn't that, like, out there. I think the closest one is when Donovan McNabb was signed, and my reaction was anger. Like, it wasn't like, oh, okay, well, we could make something work with that. It was, no, he was the worst player on that at the time on that Redskins team.
Yeah, like,
what are we doing? Why on earth? Is this really going to help Christian Ponder? Like, what are we doing?
I think my most disproportionate reaction, it really wasn't that big a deal. Well, I guess he ended up starting, so I was right. But, like, at the time, given what we knew, I, like, definitely overreacted to how bad it was. But, like, when they signed Vlad Ducasse, I was like, why? Because they signed him to be, like, a backup. So, like, I remember I was in the Mall of America on the way to a food court so that I could, in multiple years later, like 10 years later, do a bit about food courts. That was the reasoning. I remember, like, seeing it, tweeting about it and being like, why would they sign Vlad Ducasse? And, like, a bunch of people responded with, like, dude, chill out. He's like a camp body or a backup. I'm like, you don't realize, like, how bad this guy, he's so bad. It's like a left guard. It was so weird to have a take on a backup left guard back then. And I did overreact, but, like, history has vindicated me because he did end up playing a significant role in the Vikings for, like, 2 years. Which I should have done that with Dakota Dozier, right? Who I did also negatively react to, but that was proportional. He did end up playing a huge role on that team. But yeah, obviously the answer is Carson Wentz. That was a fever dream moment. That was if I had gone through any medical procedure and then had learned that, I would have thought the exact same thing. I would have been like, there's a camera up my nostril, right? Like, I'm dead. I've died. You know, like, there's no way I could interpret that correctly.
Yeah, this is all over. Fun. I didn't realize this. Player stats for 2011. There was one player who had more than one interception, and it was Jamarcus Sanford, 2.
Hey, let's go.
there's a name. Good for Jamarcus Sanford.
Man, we were so mad at Jamarcus Sanford, and, like, rightly so. But, like,
I remember when Favre signed, I was annoyed, but, like, it was clear that all the signs were pointing to this was about to happen.
Yeah.
And like the first time I saw a Favre jersey was, like, the next day at the Bloomington Cub.
Wow.
And I just, like, I looked at it and went, really? You, like, literally went out to, like, the team store and, like, got, like, how did you get this so quick? This is dumb. I hate this.
And this is, like, before it was easy to custom order. It's like, so it's not like he pre-ordered with the expectation.
Nope, he must have shown up literally that next morning and was, yep, I need this. I need this jersey in my life. I need to show it off to everyone. Everyone. Yeah, I think the McNabb one is the one for me, just because I was so like, I was almost apoplectic. Like, my younger brother was like, hey, so McNabb signed? What the hell? And I was like, this is the dumbest thing. And just like rant. Eric the Red asks, despite a stellar offseason overall, one area the Vikings roster could stand to improve in is cornerback. Former first-round cornerback Terrion Arnold recently hit the market and is available to sign. How would someone with his skill set fit into our secondary, and is he a player worth pursuing?
Well, he does hit hard. We know that.
Yeah.
And we know he's a leader. He demonstrated leadership skills, allegedly. And you know, like, the cornerback room definitely needs leadership and size. He definitely has size and stick-to-itiveness and willingness to get the job done. He does freelance a little bit. When an assignment is already being taken care of, he does kind of decide to take care of it on his own. That is an issue. But he kind of commits, right? Like, a lot of times you're worried, you know, when you're watching defenders, like, they take some time to try and figure out what their assignment is, what they should do, read the route. And you'd rather be fast and wrong than slow and correct, right? Like, you need to commit. And boy, did Terrion Arnold allegedly not wait to learn everything he needed to know before he committed. So there's a lot there. You need to trigger quickly in a defense like this because you got your eyes forward. The ball's going to come out ahead of you. It's technically his own defense, and there's going to be a lot of stuff underneath. So he does do that. I am actually describing this fact about him as a football player. Like, that is also true, in addition to the analogy. He is bad at football. Like, that needs to be stressed. Like, he's not, like, he is a former first round pick, right? But, like, that's, you know how when Myles Garrett was traded, no one was like, former first round pick Myles Garrett? Like, you know, this is former first round pick Terrion Arnold. Like, that's the energy he would bring into a locker room in terms of his talent. He could turn out to be good. We have occasionally seen this. Sam Darnold is a pretty good example of that kind of thing, albeit slightly different circumstances. Now, Sam Darnold was in jail, which is to say he played for the Jets, whereas Terrion Arnold may see jail time, which is to say an institution designed to house imprisoned people. So, you know, different kind of, but like, you know, tomato, right? But yeah, he hasn't demonstrated high-level football ability in his 2 seasons as a player. He has played a lot better than a lot of replacement-level corners, so he would be good depth. But he's not playing up to his draft slot. He's not playing up to his athletic capability, which is pretty immense. He's not playing up to his general scouting report. So there's a little bit more there to unlock. Maybe he could unlock it in the Brian Flores defense, but yeah, is he worth pursuing? Like, if he doesn't go to jail, sure.
Yeah, that's a touchy subject. Luke Betts, sure, asks, with the Lynx in first place, even without Nafisa Collier. Did I do it right?
You nailed it, actually.
That's, well, I'm glad I messed up the name of the person who wrote in then. Of
the two, I think I'd actually prefer you mess up the listener name, if I'm being honest.
Does her imminent return mean that we can already hang the banner?
I mean, generally with Minnesota sports, I would say don't do that. What are you talking about? But it is like the Lynx, right? like they've been pretty good about this sort of thing. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Dog, Olivia Miles is so, like, I know all of you who care about this have already heard about this. Olivia Miles is so good. This is one of the best rookie years for a WNBA athlete, like we've seen. Like, it's not Candace Parker, but like that's the kind of caliber we're talking about. Holy crap. And like the thing is, she's not even a good shooter yet. She's a really good scorer. And I say this having been to the game where she shot and made like 8 threes or whatever it was, or 10 out of 11 or something. She's not a good shooter. She could be. She will be, right? But she's a good scorer. She's a phenomenal passer. I love it. She's way better in the WNBA than she was in college, either for TCU or Notre Dame. I was so wrong. I didn't want the Lynx to pick her. I wanted Laurel Betts. But wow. Anyway, that plus fee. Oh my God. Good Lord. We're eating good. This is great stuff, man.
Let's go to our next question, which is from Kate, who asks, how do we free Flo Bolligan?
Sure. Oh, that's the whole question. Yeah. So got a red card in the game against Bosnia and Herzegovina. Okay, so one thing that kind of bothers me is the meta discourse that occurs every time Americans have the opportunity to watch the World Cup. I don't have a problem with Americans watching the World Cup. I have a problem with the meta discourse surrounding it, right? Which is they see something happen and they talk about it. That's it. I'm not saying they misunderstand it. I'm not saying, and they're right to. They're watching the sport, they're getting interested, and they're either confused by something or they object to something and they talk about it. And a bunch of people who have watched like Premier League soccer, La Liga, Serie A, whatever, right? A bunch of people who watch the sport forever, or Europeans, whatever, like, Americans don't know anything about this sport. And it's like, first of all, do you want Americans to watch it or not? Explain it. Stop rolling your eyes about it. Second, sometimes they're right and you're just acting like they're wrong to feel superior, which is, I think, what happened here. Bolligan, who has an amazing story, is right now kind of playing some of the most electric soccer for the United States. He's not like the quote unquote best player on the team, but right now during the World Cup, he's been kind of the most electric and it seems like the most impactful, right? During that game, late in the game against Bosnia and Herzegovina, he lands, his cleats land on the ankle of a Bosnian player. Now, a lot of people have argued that there was no intent to commit a foul, which, is true. That doesn't matter in terms of like the way that cards are distributed in soccer. They don't judge intent. And in fact, in the NFL, they judge intent a lot less than you think they do, although they still do judge intent, which does distinguish it from soccer. And of course, in basketball, they judge intent all the time to determine levels of flagrant foul, right? And in soccer, they typically don't. But there's like a lot of people who think it shouldn't have been a red card. And, there's a little bit more kind of results oriented approach to this, but like still the process by which the injury / foul had occurred does matter, right? And I don't think it would be fair to say that he played the ball recklessly, or played anything kind of outside the scope of what typically you would expect a player to play if they were trying to legitimately win the ball, and so on and so forth. And I think that is definitely something that should be a yellow card, but they didn't catch it live. And I believe the video assistant replay can only assign a red card in that situation. So they went with a red card. Again, this is what I believe because I was a soccer expert 15 years ago. It was my favorite sport. I love this stuff. I could name, the rosters of basically everyone in the EPL. I was huge into it. So I do have some familiarity with it, but I've like lost my fastball in a way Bill Simmons hasn't, right? I'm out of it. Like, I don't know many of the players. I get amazed anytime I see a player that is new to me do stuff like Lamine Yamal. Oh my God, what a player. But like, you're new to me, right? And so like a bunch of people are like, this is your first time watching? It's like, yeah, this is. What about it? But like, I don't really know kind of how the video assistant replay works in terms of what it can and can't do. And so my understanding, based off the way people talked about it, I didn't Google it, I didn't look it up, is that they can only assign a red card in that situation. So that's what they did. And I think that that's way too harsh. That absolutely should have been a yellow. But a bunch of people were like, that shouldn't have been a red. And a bunch of people were like, that's absolutely a red. You never watch soccer. And it's like, well, good work. Now they don't want to because of you. Screw you. That sucks. And there is no appeals process. The only process during the World Cup for a red card, so if you get a red card, you're ejected from that match and then suspended for the next game. There is a process by which they determine whether or not you should be suspended for more games. I believe this happened to Luis Suarez, the Uruguayan striker who bit a guy. I believe he got suspended for one more game on top of that. But there's no like appeals process to get rid of a red card or get rid of the 1 game suspension. It is what it is. And they would argue that like the appeals process was the video assistant replay, which I don't think is a very good process. But that's what happened. So I don't know that we could free him. And you can't do the bit where you just change his name and make him wear like glasses and a mustache because you have to pre-register your teams beforehand. Although like, I mean, do these teams really pay attention to who the backup goalkeeper is? Like maybe you could just say it's that guy. Well, maybe that's the best shot. Anyway, that sucked, but I've watched every World Cup, some a little bit more religiously than others. So I paid a ton of attention in 2002. I had my heart broken in 1998 because I was cheering for Brazil. I didn't pay as much attention in, more recent years. But I watched every World Cup, and this is one of the best World Cups ever. This rules, and also the vibe of the American team, this red card thing aside, immaculate, outstanding. This is like so much better than like the Bruce Arena, you have to have played in the MLS teams, or the Jurgen Klinsmann, like we're only grabbing Europeans who are technically Americans team. Like the mix of genuine talent and chemistry, and like grabbing players who may not, like just in the same way that Tyrese Halliburton got the participation gold medal at the Olympics, and he was selected over more talented players because he fit better within the team concept. It seems like that's what they're doing with some of the players that they've added to the team, like Riemann and I guess in a sense Berhalter. It's so good. The team is so good. It's so fun to watch. They play like they belong. Like so many American teams didn't play like they belonged. Like I remember, I think this was the 2002 World Cup when the United States played Italy, and like they scored a goal. It was an own goal, but they scored a goal. And it was like the biggest deal in the world. And all goals are the biggest deal in the world. But like the way that we had all kind of interacted with it and reacted to it was like they had just slain Goliath. And in a sense, no one was scoring on Italy. So I guess. But like they're also doing stuff like, Landon Donovan should have fouled that guy there, but American soccer culture doesn't do intentional fouls. They don't understand it, which is like a secret way of saying we're morally superior, whatever. But like they didn't like play like they belonged. They played 4-4-2 counter football, which is underdog football, which is not what Cape Verde plays. They play balls to the wall. Everyone's going to score a bunch of goals. The rules, go them. But it was like very like we're the underdog, so we just have to take advantage of it. It's like being a fast break only team in basketball. And it kind of sucked. And the only advantage the Americans had is that they were like better athletes, which like who cares? Like everyone's more technically skilled than you and understands soccer better and understands like, tackling angles and passing angles and possession, and they have better first touch. It doesn't matter. This World Cup rules. The stoppage time goals that are happening everywhere are awesome. I bet the hydration break that everyone hates is playing a role into why it rules. So eat it. And I encourage people who don't love soccer to give it another shot during this World Cup, even if like this like arbitrary red card thing ticks you off.
I've actually watched a ton of it this year and have really, really enjoyed it. Even the game this evening that was with the last second stop, or the last second goal that was called back.
Yeah, the Portugal-Croatia.
Portugal-Croatia.
That game was one of the best ones. I've been talking about how great this World Cup was. That was one, if not the best. Like Uruguay, Cape Verde was one of the best ones as well. It's up there, right? It's one or two. It was an outstanding game. Oh my God.
It was so good. And like,
And something profoundly unfair happened at the end, and I'm still like, this rules.
Yep. You can actually, it's the Simpsons thing where you can pinpoint where their heart breaks.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And like, I don't think that should have happened. I think it sucked. I was cheering for Croatia because I kind of just don't like Cristiano Ronaldo. His vibe is off, and also I've kind of always hated him because one of my favorite players growing up was Ronaldo, Fat Ronaldo, I guess is what people call him now, but the original Ronaldo for Brazil. And so when everyone talked about Cristiano Ronaldo and all referred to him as Ronaldo, I kind of hated that. And I just don't like his vibe. So I was cheering against them for arbitrary sports reasons, right? And you know, he had a goal and it got taken away, and I was like, that rules. And then he had the penalty. Croatia had that and another goal taken away due to offsides, and I'm pretty sympathetic. Oh, also a goal taken away due to a foul on a corner, which I thought sucked. So my opinion on, like they had pushed the goalkeeper. My opinion on that is it's like a Hail Mary where you don't call pass interference. Stuff happens on corner kicks. Stop doing that. Don't do that. If it was egregious, sure, but it wasn't egregious. Anyway, Croatia had like 2 or 3 goals taken away because of this, including the 13th minute of stoppage time, which they only were supposed to have 10, but when you score a goal in stoppage time, that adds the time, obviously. It wasn't inappropriate to have like 13 minutes of stoppage time. But oh my God, it was so cool, and I don't think that they should have. It ruled, and I can't believe that they took it away. But what a game! Oh my God, what a game! Incredible,
so much fun.
Yeah,
so much fun. The U.S. run has been fantastic, and but the game today was just absurd. I was sitting and I was cooking and just like couldn't watch what I was doing over on the stove. I had to keep watching the game. It was fantastic. Let's go to Jack Rackham, who asks, how long before Diana Rossini is offered a job in the White House?
Yeah, it does seem like
that's coming. That has to be coming.
I am really curious because like the thing is, very often when a reporter gets canceled and this pipeline I'm about to describe very often happens to conventionally attractive women. They often go through like the Outkick and like Fox News and conservative kind of news sphere kind of reclamation from getting canceled. But the thing is, they were like Outkick and like the Daily Wire and all of them were pretty. First of all, they wrote about this, which is like, come on. I mean, Outkick technically does sports, so like sure, but like the Daily Wire wrote about whatever. But they were really, really critical of her. So it's going to be kind of curious to see if that is at all a possibility for her, or if she's going to get a job in like PR or something. It's going to be tough to lose that $800,000 paycheck, which, by the way, when that was reported, I actually didn't care that much. I know a lot of people were like, oh my God, I can't believe she got that. Insiders get paid $1 million. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, if you're lucky, you get to invest in a
Yeah, man, maybe I should write about this, like, because this insider stuff is all unethical. I hate insiders. I've talked about this before.
Yeah.
But it's all glad handing, and like it's not even like the stuff I described about transactional, like I'll tell you about a player suspension coming down if you give me like the next bit of news or whatever. Like, okay, that if you hate that, that's fine. I hate that they are essentially barred from being critical of anyone, which is like, what are we doing? Like, we can't be journalists. We have to, in order to secure our next interview with Roger Goodell, we have to defend this awful commissioner who like hates life. I mean, he's very good at his job, which is to make money for the NFL. He's actually outstanding at his job. He's one of the best commissioners we've ever had of any sport, but like he sucks. And we can't like criticize him because we need to we need to get access again and again and again. It's like this access journalism stuff sucks. Anyway, this is worse than all of that. This is worse than Mr. Editor. So great.
I like that of all people to be talking about the Schefter and Robert Kraft thing. It's Mark Schlereth.
Yeah, what? Of all? Yeah.
Really? The stinking good chili guy.
Yeah. Which, like, you know, if you told me, hey, Mark Schlereth is like authentic to his core, he's willing to burn like I would believe you, right? Like that the part's not
100%.
But like this is just like a random guy essentially. Like obviously he's like been a broadcaster, like whatever, but like this is just a guy.
Nope. He woke up one day and decided, you know what? I'm good with this. I'm going to go after both Robert Kraft and Adam Schefter and be right.
Yeah. Yeah.
In case you aren't familiar, this will be in the show notes. Just read up on it. I don't know that it'll become a bigger story, but it should make someone angry.
Yeah.
Let's go to Deez, who asks, since Arif doesn't talk about sumo anymore, allegedly. Fun fact, Deez, he was talking about sumo for I had to stop Arif from talking about sumo before we came on. He just kept going on and on about it. It was fantastic. He doesn't talk to you about it anymore. He talks to me about it. So I had to do what Luke does at the end of Locked On After Dark and just end it.
Just end it. Just cut off. All right, bye.
3 seconds of, all right, we'll see you next time, and just done. In order to get this show on the road. So just letting you know that his sumo knowledge hasn't ended, but it has ended with you. So I'm not trying to have a listener try to go out and kill us, but I'm doing my best. D is asked, since Arif doesn't talk about sumo anymore, allegedly, can he break down the team he reached Master Ball with in Pokemon Champions, and how is he enjoying his time thus far with the game?
All right. Okay. So I did post that I made it to Master Ball tier in Pokemon Champions on like the second day of getting it on my phone. I was really proud of that. I think it's really cool. So for people who are unfamiliar, it's not the game Pokemon. It's only the battling part. So there's no like catching Pokemon. I mean, there's like recruiting, but it's not really that difficult or anything like that. There's no storyline. You're not like defeating Team Rocket or God. I don't remember all the stories. The concept of the weather, like that's not, don't worry about that. You're just battling, and there's 2 formats. I only really play the one, which is the official video game competitive format, double battles. I've actually been watching content about Pokemon video game content, the official format, for like 2 years now. I've been really enjoying it. So I've actually kind of gotten into it for a while. I watched the one that everyone watches. I watch Wolf Glick, but I've also watched like James Beck and Aaron Zhang and a little bit of Necra and whatever, right? It's been fun. So I've learned a lot about it, but I didn't have a Switch. I lost the Switch in the breakup. Fun fact.
Womp womp.
And I got it wasn't the worst thing in the world. I got like the PS4, but I don't like have a TV, so I can't like do anything with that fact, right? So like, great, I have the PS4. Anyway, so I didn't have it, and I wasn't going to buy a Switch to play it. But they released Pokemon Champions for mobile a couple months after they released it for the Switch generally. So I've been playing a lot of it, and I've played so many battles at this point. I don't even remember. I'm sure they've got like a battle record, but I could look it up. But my team that I'm currently using, I'm experimenting with 2 other teams right now, but the one I'm actually using in ranked battles is kind of weird, actually. So it's got some like people that you'd expect. So I've got, or Pokemon. So I've got Whimsicott and Goldengo, or Goldango. I never know how to pronounce these. And I've got Sinistcha, which like a lot of teams have those 3. I've also got Hisuian Typhlosion. So that's the Ghost Fire type. So there's the Typhlosion, which is the starter in one of the generations. This is the regional variant that's also a Ghost type. And then my Megas are Swampert and Abomasnow, which it gives me a lot of type coverage. It's a very special attack team and not a very physical attack team, which right now works pretty well because there's not a ton of special defense in the meta. There's a lot of Intimidate in the meta, although that's decreasing because there's so many Pokemon with Contrary. If you know what I'm talking about, I'm not going to explain all of it. It gets insanely complicated, ridiculously fast. But yeah, Whimsicott's my speed control. I've got, so a lot of people run Whimsicott with Moonblast and Tailwind, which I do, and Protect, which I do. But a lot of people run it with Encore. I run it with Trick Room. And then I've also got Sinistcha with Trick Room. So I've got a pretty fast team with Typhlosion, and it can remain fast if I'm on top of my speed control. But if I suspect that team is going to be faster and that they're going to run Tailwind, I will on the first turn just click Trick Room instead of Tailwind, and then win out on the speed battle there. Again, there's a lot of stuff here that I'm saying that if it doesn't make sense to you, it won't without like a lot of explanation that I'm not going to get into. But this is like a pretty good team for me. It doesn't have a bunch of great answers to King Gambit, who's in the meta a lot now. But it doesn't have answers to like Electros, which means it also doesn't have answers to Mega Raichu. But for the most part, it has answers to most of the meta. Like a lot of people are really confused as to why it does really well against Charizard teams. It's just like manipulating speed control. It does all right there. And Golden Go has Power Gem, which is like quadruple effective. So this is a fun team. Mega Bomb Snow has Giga Drain, Blizzard, of course, because he sets up the weather, and Earth Power, while Mega Swampert has Earthquake and Wave Crash and another thing, I'm sure. But yeah, I don't know. This team has been pretty good to me. I'm probably going to change it soon. Just I've got more practice and do a bunch of different types of teams. I had a Star Raptor team for a while, running. I think a lot of people call it Star Raptor cheese. I had a Raichu team for a while, but not the one everyone was using, which I think is why I was using X. And a couple of other variants. But right now I'm experimenting with the Kangaskhan Farigiraf Trick Room team with Torkoal. And I need a better answer into Rain with the new teams I'm experimenting with. I do pretty decent against the Rain right now, but like Rain is the dominant meta. Anyway, that was a bunch of stuff. Let me check right now. I'm ranked. I mean, I'm obviously still in Master Ball. Once you get there, you can't get out. Yeah, my rating right now is 1620. Not the highest. My highest was 1720, and I spent a lot of time at 1550. But right now I'm at 1620. I'm pretty happy about that. That's an ELO rating. Yeah. So again, that probably sounded like gobbledygook gibberish to 95% of the audience, but that's not different than like most of our mailbag questions anyway.
You're probably right. Both about the topic and what you just said. Room Temp asks, what can and should Minnesota destroy to celebrate a Viking Super Bowl win?
More precincts.
I was going to go with the Skyway. I feel like we have to take this one. We have to take this one for the team.
We both chose very Minnesota responses, which is to either burn down another precinct or take down a very uniquely Minnesota institution, the Skyway.
Yep. Look, it's either that or the bike lanes in downtown.
No, God.
Like, decisions are going to have to be made here. Also, if Taylor Swift is using Madison Square Garden for her rehearsal dinner, where is James holding his to one-up her?
Great question.
That is an excellent question. I'm not in charge of the rehearsal dinner, so I actually don't know. That is something that is outside of my hands. I know that it is not within my parents' budget to grab an arena. Like Ralph Ingolstadt Arena or something. So I don't think that will end up happening.
Without with that attitude, but like you set your mind to it and the budget will appear.
I mean, they're retired. I'm not. I'm not saying the expectations are high. I am planning a massive party at my house though, after the rehearsal dinner. So there is that. Everybody coming from out of town is invited to take part in the Bar Globe.
I was going to say, is the Bar Globe going to be there?
Yeah, the Bar Globe is absolutely going to be there. Everyone keeps buying me liquor. I've just acquired that as like the thing that, oh, well, it's obvious we could just get James that gift for whatever, which I appreciate that I have that sort of reputation. I haven't been able to drink since New Year's. Right.
So that makes sense. Yeah.
For quite obviously, for really, really obvious reasons. Yeah. So all these bottles just keep, and like nice bottles are just accumulating here. And, I need to like get rid of some of them. So I feel like a massive house party the day before the wedding, seems like a good idea.
That rules.
So, yes. Let's go also for Reef's Beer Corner. What's a better reason to enjoy, in quotations, a free Budweiser, the 250th anniversary of the signing of Declaration of Independence, or the Browns winning a single game? It's the Browns.
It's got to be the Browns. I am planning on writing something about the 250th thing for Wide Left, which I haven't written a word. So we're recording this at 1:30 a.m. on July 3rd. So we'll see how I do talking about the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. But
I was going to say, are you going to talk about the signing of the Declaration of Independence? Are you going to talk about how, like, it turns out I can book a better festival than whoever was in charge of the National Mall the last week or so?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to bring up the National State Fair. Why is it called a state fair? Anyway, yeah, that'll come up for sure.
I had no idea that the small town of Crookston, Minnesota, could get more people to show up to a party.
Yeah, Crookston simply has more motion than Washington, D.C.
You know what? I've always said that. So let's move on to Minneapple Cinnamon Cheerios, who asks, for a Reef's Dare Corner, I ordered some THC gummies online, and due to a recent heat wave, they all fused together in shipment into a single omni blob of THC sugar goo. My new E Plurpus Goonum gummy.
Oh my god!
Also appears to have chemically fused with the plastic wrapper. Taking together, the average Westerner consumes about 5 grams of microplastic per week.
What? Okay, that was not the direction that you would have expected that to go in.
How much of my weekly allocation would it take to just eat it anyway? You got like a Joey Diaz star of death right there. You better be careful. You are going to see some sky demons here.
There is no way you've given me enough information to answer this question. Like, I have no idea how many gummies you ordered. I don't know, like, what the volume is when they become a sphere. I don't know what the packaging situation is supposed to be like.
It might have become sentient at this point.
Also on the table, right? At which point is it ethical to eat it? I would still say yes, but like, you got to ask the question, right? I'm going to say that this is probably like 5 grams is a lot. Jeez, is that how much we eat? Jesus. I'm going to say that probably this is off the top of the dome 5 times your allocation if you're going to have it all in one sitting, which I strongly recommend against. Like dice, like portion it out. See if you could peel the plastic off too, but like portion it out.
Like, no,
you've got like a baking scale, right? Come on, like
this seems the 5 grams seems like one of those like you eat 6 spiders a day things.
Oh, so Spiders Georg is throwing off the.
It's possible. Like it feels like that anyway. I don't know enough about it, but you know what? Just eat the whole thing and watch the entirety of Widow's Bay on Apple TV. Just see where that takes you.
There's I remember I when I was like really young, I used to be really into world records for some reason, which, hey, I have talked to my therapist. I don't have autism, but I was super into world records. and
what a lie! I can never put that as an episode title. I want to retire. I want to end this show like Luke Braun does after dark.
We still got a couple more questions, James.
I can't. How do you recover from what I've talked to my therapist? I'm not autistic. Anyway, let's talk about world records.
I was super into world records. And I'm Googling this guy right now. Yeah. And like they had a world record for eating. And that was it. Like, I was like, what do you mean eating? Like, eating what? Is it eating the most? Is it eating the most something? I don't know. And they have a couple of, like, world records for, like, eating, right? Like, the most hot dogs or whatever, right? Like, they have a couple, but they have one just for eating. Or they did back in, like, 1997 when I had this, like, thick Guinness Book of World Records book. I also had 96 and 98 and whatever. Don't worry about it.
Look, those book fair people were real aggressive.
That might have played a role. And the guy, who had the world record for eating. And you find out, if you're really into world records, how stupid and arbitrary they are. And so I got disenchanted with how stupid world records became. Like by the time I was in middle school, which I think is earlier than most people. So before Paramore released their music video where they tried to break a bunch of world records, which kind of reveals how stupid world records are. But he had an eating disorder known as pica. And so he would just like eat stuff, right? Like stuff that's not food. And like, so he ate a plane, a Cessna 150. Like he just ate a plane, fully ate a plane. And he like would eat for like entertainment. So he had like a quadruple thick walled stomach lining or something like that, which allowed him to do this. And he also had like scientists were like, hey, we're going to take some of your digestive juices and see what's going on over there. And so like it was really acidic. He said that soft foods made him like get heartburn, I guess. Mostly because he had already eaten metal, and I guess the interactions between soft foods and metal screwed up his stomach, which like, wow, imagine that. Anyway, this might be the Spider's Georg of microplastics. Like he's just eaten so many, it's thrown off the average. Like, oh no, he's dead. Okay, that makes sense. He should be. Like, do you see what he's eating? But there's probably something like this guy out there that's eating all the plastic and throwing off everybody's averages for how much microplastic that we've been eating.
It's tough because you know they want to.
Yeah,
this blob. What was the term? E pluribus gunum.
Yeah, which could mean something different.
Yeah, that's not the episode title. That's not. Let me be abundantly clear.
If it was, I would correct the spelling. But like, yeah, no, for sure, that's probably a pretty bad. I don't know. It gets a bunch of clicks, James. Think about it.
You know, if I was only business minded, we would have recorded an episode in June. Arif's Tormentor asks, which current Viking would create the best Minnesota display at the Great American State Fair? We had lots of good options that are no longer on the team.
Right? I would have gone with Jared Allen, right?
I think Jared Allen could have worked. I think my initial thought was this absolutely seems like a Matt Burke thing, but he's just going to sit at a table.
Matt Burke would be the most enthusiastic about attending. I think, for sure. I think Jared Allen would be the most enthusiastic about getting to make a diorama.
Like, dude, we got macaroni, we got glue, we got glitter. We got this. Let's see. Who do I think is the most like... I'm going to go with the presentation angle and not the Trump angle. Who do we think is the most interested in like arts and crafts and could like make a thing? I'm sure there's an actual answer. Like, I'm sure if I went through all the bios of the current Vikings, like there was somebody who like loves maker spaces and like, you know, does DIY carpentry or whatever. Right. I'm not going to look into that. I'm going to go based off of my vibes, guy who likes to build stuff. I think small scale, I bet Jay Ward is great at like little models and stuff. Large scale, like kind of like carpentry vibes. Just thinking about starters, by the way, I'm going to go with Brian O'Neill. And I mean, he's an offensive lineman. He probably wants to be there anyway. I mean, just like historically speaking. It's possible. The other option, of course, is our kicker just sits at a table and just waves at everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. This is Minnesota. Welcome.
Yep. A second jet has hit Drew Bledsoe, asks, for James's dry July, how do I not drink for a full month? I'm Catholic and drink the alcohol blood of my God every Sunday. Do I just drop the church?
Well, James is an expert in not drinking at the moment.
Well, let me tell you about how much I miss alcohol. Somebody who's not an alcoholic is saying it aloud at the moment. I just would prefer to not be medicated. How do I not drink? one day at a time, I suppose. But if you're in a situation where you're wondering about how you shouldn't drink for, how you're not going to be able to drink for a month, it might be a good thing to have a dry July.
That's a good point. If that sounds like a challenge, probably that's a challenge that you should partake in.
Just give it a shot. See how it goes. Maybe ask for grape Kool-Aid. I think that was the line from the famed Minnesota movie about the Drop Dead Gorgeous. It's like, that's why I think the line was, that's why we Lutherans that drink cherry Kool-Aid for the blood of Christ. For Arif's corner, what possible cornerbacks do you think will be available for this season, preferably before the start of the season? Asking for a Lions fan.
Well, I know about one.
Yep. Well, this particular person is one of the two Lions fans. So,
yeah. Aside from that, man, that's a pretty interesting question. I think Adoree Jackson is still available. I want to say. I think Art Millette is still available. Artie Burns. Wait, no, Art Millette was just a Lion, so probably not him. Artie Burns, Chris Braswell, I think he went to Rutgers, right? So, oh, by the way, all-name team guy, DiCaprio Boodle, he should be available.
What a name.
Yeah. I suppose you could convert Ife Melifonwu to corner from safety. He does feel like a Lion, so there is that. Let's see, they just got rid of Jalen Mills. Oh, hey, Jeff Okudah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So that's who the Lions should sign. He was a former first-round pick. Don't worry about it. And he's got a lot of athleticism. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's very enthusiastic.
Did you see that the boat that was used in the Love Boat scandal is for sale, or one of the boats is for sale?
Oh my God! Outstanding.
Let me send you the link, because this is legit. The boat is also called Mischievous.
No way. What?
Yep. If you've got $150,000 lying around, the byline of the story reads, you can own an obscure piece of Minnesota Vikings history.
Gonna be honest, that does sound cheaper than I would have expected.
A 1994 Skipper liner 5800 named the Mischievous is for sale for just a hair under 150 grand. This was one of the boats that was used during the Love Boat scandal. I love this line, by the way. After 7 of the players urinated in someone's yard following the party, the police were called and word got out of what had gone down. It became a massive scandal that reflected quite poorly on the franchise and may have ultimately contributed to head coach Mike Tice being fired at the end of that season. I mean...
Yeah. I'm looking at the pictures in the listing. And first of all, they've got a little corner dedicated to the Vikings, which is extremely funny. Keep that energy up. So obviously the decor is extremely dated, like no question about it. But it actually looks pretty well maintained for a boat from like 1997.
Yep. There are framed jerseys of Dante Culpepper and Bryant McKinney.
Yeah.
So,
which, like, go off, King.
That rule.
Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, and the decor, that's got to be not too bad of an upgrade. But the engine looks like clean and new. I don't know anything about boats, but looks nice.
It has the appearance of this is not a boating podcast.
Right, it's not a boating podcast. This does not constitute boating advice. And I will say I have heard the like oft repeated motto or canard. The 2 happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day he buys the boat and the day he sells the boat.
Yep.
So, if you want to buy a boat, like, reconsider. But if you are, after having reconsidered, interested in buying a boat, this actually does not look too bad. I'm not good at engines. I hope that's obvious. But, like, this looks shockingly well maintained. to my amateur eye.
I mean, I don't know where you'd put this thing when you're not using it for, like a garage of some sort.
Okay, no. First of all, this is not a garage boat. You keep it moored at a lake. Second, screw you, man.
I was just saying it aloud. I was just trying to figure it out. Fine. Tank B asks, for Arif's parenting corner, my son, recently turned 6, has taken to saying that anything I have seasoned is, quote, too spicy. While I do love a higher spice level than most, I always make it a point to limit or remove heat from what I make for everyone else, cooking anything I want spicy separately. But this is milk is spicy level of sensitivity from my son that has left me perplexed. How can I guide him along into the wonderful world of seasoned foods?
Okay, so first of all, this is a terrible way to find out that your kid is white.
You hate to see it.
You hate to see it. Second, my understanding, and again, we have positioned myself as somebody who gets to talk about parenting and children. So yeah, we'll see how wise that is. My understanding is that like kids up to like until they're like 8 or something like that have more taste buds. And also on top of that, just don't know how like their brain, and this usually stops around like 3, so maybe it doesn't apply to your 6-year-old. But again, my understanding, who knows, maybe it does. Their brains can't properly calibrate the intensity of the experiences that they have when they taste food, which is why baby food is so bland. Maybe this is like apocryphal or urban legend. I could be wrong, but that's what I understand. So it might not be like an actual issue. I do know that when I have seen parents talk about this, again, this is just anecdotes. A lot of them have indicated that kids of immigrants experience this a lot less, obviously for like the reasons that you'd expect, but also like they don't buy baby food. They make regular food and like mash it up or something, which is what my parents did with like Bengali food, which is like, I don't think anyone would really characterize it as bland. So this might just be a problem that resolves itself over time, but you should kind of be assertive about making sure the kid is exposed to a wide variety of foods. At 6, that just feels like it's not like set in stone yet. Like I think your kid is being 6, if I had to guess. I think probably just like I would start kind of at milder spices, even buying worse spices, right? That have like getting like McCormick instead of going Penzies for like your paprika or whatever, right? And limiting any spices that intentionally cause pain, like chili powder and stuff like that, which like activates your pain receptors, like being light on cumin, getting crappier paprika and using that. But I would still make sure to season the food. Obviously salt, right? Like that, you just need that anyway. But like a tiny bit of pepper, a little bit, which kind of activates some of the pain receptors, so only a tiny bit. And then, other spices that are not related to piquancy. So a little bit of paprika, not smoked. A little bit of cumin. Cumin's kind of strong. And I would spend a little bit more time with the herbs than with the spices, just to kind of get like a basil or tarragon situation going. I think that might be a good entryway. But that's my primary reaction is, I don't know, maybe 6. But my guess is the way to get out of this is to play it with a pretty light hand and just be persistent about it.
If you find something that they actually like that has a little bit of spice to it, you can just throw all that food down their gullet and eventually convince them that this is a good thing.
Sure.
I don't know, we did that with salsa for my son, who anything that was spicier than like mayo he didn't like. So we fixed him of that. It just took a while, but he's more sensitive to spice than he rightfully should be. Nolan Kaler asks, "Hey, our GM, for North Code, with the podcast winding down, so too are the opportunities for the podcast to consummate their love of our brothers in Bud Grant. Will they be making a trip north, and will James claim asylum to take advantage of our superior healthcare system?"
Okay. First of all, Cook. I think James should have made it to Canada earlier. I think we're kind of past the point of no return on this one. You should have gone to Canada in January, James. What were you thinking?
Yeah,
the normal time everyone goes to Canada, January.
Yeah, I can't imagine how much fun that trip to the border crossing would have been. Me in the back of like a medical transport.
No, this was a prearranged trip. We're planning to visit his cousin.
Yeah, exactly. I also please don't ask me to stand. That is absolutely something I cannot do. I do have my passport though, so I might have been able to get
pre-Trump picture passport.
Yeah, which I was about to rant about how it tells people to be good on it, and these are the ones that
are already yeah.
So yeah,
he thinks the passport's a V. I know.
Yeah. So as far as the trip north is concerned, I will say that we haven't decided what the honeymoon situation is going to be. So maybe I take a look at the superior healthcare system up in Moose Jaw. Moose Jaw's for lovers, right? Right. So we just head up to Saskatchewan. It'll be fine. Just go through the worst of the border crossings in all of the country, Portal, North Dakota, which if you've ever been, you may be entitled to compensation somewhere. Damien asks, does the pod need to reassess their views on Ben DiNucci? So Ben DiNucci put out a tweet saying the only song worse than Country Roads is Sweet Caroline. I said it, both stink, always will. There's a million songs you could play after winning a World Cup match, and you'd pick Country Roads. Come on. Okay.
I don't agree with the take, but I don't think it's a bad take. I don't know how to explain it. It's a fine take. I'm not there with him. I think the thing about crowd songs is that there is a little bit of lowest common denominator that has to occur. And so you can't get like an interesting or dynamic song. It has to appeal to a lot of people. And I'm honestly happy it's not Mr. Brightside. Like, seriously. Like, I love Mr. Brightside, but like, no. I think that it feels great to be in a crowd singing it. I am not going out of my way to listen to it. You know what I mean? So I don't actually think it's as good of a song as the people responding to this tweet think it is. But I think it rules that there is a song that fans will sing after the United States wins a World Cup game. I don't think you realize how unlikely that feels. So I'm fine with it. But I don't think the take is that bad. I don't dislike country. I just don't think it's that bad of a take. Anyway,
so my thought is it seems like a fine song during a match or halftime or whatever, but after winning,
you don't think so?
It just seems a little odd.
A ton of teams have songs after winning, and they're all pretty recent innovations too. And I will say they get the right to it, but it sucks that they got to this one. But the English do have Wonderwall. And yeah, you don't want to hear it at a party from a guy who just learned the guitar 4 days ago. I get it. Wonderwall can be an annoying song. But that rules that they sing Wonderwall after wins. I assume it's not as overplayed in England as it was 15 years ago in the United States.
But Yeah, I'm on board with the Danucci thing here. When this had been posted in the Discord, my response was, I totally get it, but I'm also someone who, when I say the songs I like the least, or the songs I hate the most, or rather, I usually have people come after me with pitchforks and torches. So the follow up question was, does the pod need to reassess their views on James?
Okay. So you know who has the same opinion as you about your dislike?
Okay, hold on. Let me give this one first, and then you can, because you're too excited to say it.
I am so excited to say it.
You're too excited, so calm down. A couple of the songs that I hate, that I cannot stand, I hate the most, include Love Shack by the B-52s.
I get it.
I cannot stand...
I think it's a great song, but I get where you're coming from.
Brown Eyed Girl has been ruined for me. I can't listen to it anymore thanks to the wedding thing.
Okay, I was wondering, is this because it's played a ton at weddings, or because of like the apocryphal story that the brown eye refers not to the eye of the human? Okay, great.
Nope, that's absolutely has something to do with weddings. Hallelujah, I cannot stand.
Really?
I hate Hallelujah.
Okay, so you keep on picking songs that like I like, but are definitely songs where I'm like, you know what, I get it. Again, I'm not with you, but I see where it comes from. Hallelujah is definitely a song where if you dislike it a little bit, you dislike it a lot. I don't think there's a ton of middle ground.
No, it's absolutely, I cannot stand that. Seasons of Love from Rent.
Oh, no, yeah, I'm with you, actually.
I cannot stand. I have heard it too many times.
Yeah.
It is just the worst. But I think the song I dislike the most is Imagine by John Lennon.
He's a monster. Absolute monster.
I think that's the song I dislike the most because everyone has a terrible cover of it. Remember during COVID when like the worst cover of that came out?
Obviously, but like I hate bad covers on their own merits, and I don't project that onto the original song. Okay.
I can't help it. I only hear bad covers of it. One of my favorite bands from like the early 2000s was A Perfect Circle, and they put out a terrible cover of it.
I would expect A Perfect Circle to do that. That's not shocking.
I hated it.
You know who shares your distaste of the song Imagine by John Lennon? He made a whole video about it. Like he dedicated separate time to make sure that this take came out.
I'm sure it can't be someone who is inflammatory or has said anything incredibly awful or has any.
Oh, no. It's a very non-controversial kind of milquetoast figure. His name is Ben Shapiro.
Oh, good. You did a show with him before, right? Like you did a politics show with.
No, that's Ben Natan, who is not Ben Shapiro.
Are you sure? Like,
very confident.
Have you checked ID? Like, I just want to make sure that
I have met Ben Natan. He is certainly no Ben Shapiro.
I swore you were going to say, I have met Ben Shapiro. And I was going to say, what conference were you at exactly?
Okay, you know, like the roster of insane people that I've met or know, it wouldn't shock you at all if I had met Ben Shapiro.
I just would be amazed if he'd spoken to you, but I suppose that's more of like,
yeah, but that's different.
Yeah, that has everything to do with, yeah, all right, never mind. Allegedly. Yeah, so that's great. I love that I share that take with someone that is that normal. Good. I love that. Not Arif Hassan asks, for James's Kalshi Corner, how long until we bully wide left off of this platform? I'd have to check the wiki, but I feel like it was only 5 months since we asked about live markets making Arif better at journalism. All
right, man. Okay, so I still get like ad buy requests from Kalshi. It's very annoying. Hey, if any like Beehive devs are listening, when I press the thumbs down button on I don't want to see this ad opportunity again, please honor it, because I get like a new Kalshi offer every 2 days. And I thumbs down it and I say it's not appropriate for my audience. And like, it doesn't do anything. I just get more of them. Please stop.
What I want to do, or what I would have loved to have done, and there's no way I could possibly pull it off. I accept that, and I'm going to move on. But what I want to do, or what I wanted to do, was do a insider training Kalshi episode of Norse Code, where we have like, it's clear that we have like, that we're like doing like a betting thing, or we're trying to like hit the under on discussions or hit the over on discussions, and then like check in like, okay, how many mailbag questions? No, okay, we can still do 2.5 more, and like, and move on. And then like we have to hit an ending time of, all right, we hit the under on the episode, and then afterwards Luke comes on and says that he like made money on the fact that we went under, and we both like get angry. Like I want to do that, or I would have wanted to do that, but there's no way. It's this is not the right platform for it, and I accept that.
Yeah.
It's too bad. I'm almost as sad as Kyle, who says, now that I've come to accept the ending of Norse Code, I'd like to take a moment to congratulate you both. The show has been a landmark achievement in the field of niche sports podcasts. Boy, is it ever niche. And nope, never mind. I'm right back to anger. How dare you do this to us?
I'm so happy this is happening to Kyle.
Yep. Exactly. Mad Max Brosmer asks, for Reef's Seed Oil Corner, with Spain having banned seed oils for their team at the World Cup, per The Athletic, are you willing to admit you are wrong and that they are incredibly toxic to human beings? Given that you are obviously wrong, will you stoop to the level of making your next argument shirtless in a grocery store to try to get your point across? This is obviously the next logical step. Okay,
first of all, have you met athletes? They're so bad at science. I don't know what to tell you. No, that doesn't prove anything. Tom Brady like doesn't eat tomatoes, right? Like what are we doing? Okay. So many times we hear about a crazy diet that an athlete has, and the only reason it works is because incidentally you're just, by virtue of watching what you eat for this crazy stupid diet, you end up eating a lot of healthy foods, right? Now, seed oils aren't bad for you in the way that people talk about it, but it's not like the world's worst thing that they have a bunch of olive oil, right? First of all, they're from Spain. How much seed oil are they having? It's all olive oil anyway. But like, second, oh, by the way, did you see their like goodbye Chattanooga video, James?
I can't say that I did.
It rules. It's the best tourism for a city video I have ever seen in my life, outside of course, the Cleveland ones. I just encourage you to watch it. It rules. But like the things that athletes or teams get them to eat that have no scientific basis make me confident that this like doesn't matter. So I don't have to. Why would I sit? What's the shirtless thing? I don't have to sit in a grocery store to talk about this. Seed oils are fine.
It's the people who are like shirtless online talking about nutrition or appearing in like grocery stores. Okay, I saw a grocery person doing a video in Grand Forks. It was at a Hugo's, and they were like in the grocery store and like clearly speaking. They didn't even have somebody filming them. They just had the camera like set up on the cart. And they were like, they had like a little video and we're doing it like that.
Okay.
And I was rude and I went behind them and I got food and I got something. And like, I was like, I didn't even need cucumbers. I just needed to stop this from happening. So I just went over and I grabbed a thing of cucumbers and I looked into the camera and then I looked into the phone and then I went back and then I like left and I hesitated and decided whether or not I was going to grab something else and kept going. And I totally like, they stopped.
Outstanding.
Like, I did some good today. I assume they filmed again.
Probably, but like you made their life slightly inconvenient and I approve.
Good. It was, it's about time. Also, for Arif's health and wellness corner, I am currently in Portugal, and I've been consuming copious quantities of meats, carbs, and alcohol, with relatively few fruits and vegetables. Regardless, I feel better and generally than I generally do in the States. More anxiety, more energy, less bloated, and may have even lost some weight. When will Americans finally recognize that our food system is causing significant issues and demand the same food standards that Europeans enjoy?
Oh my God. I have so many issues with this question, and I wish that it was like a universal thing with the question, but like the food system is causing significant health issues, but not for any of the reasons that people ever talk about. And the reason that you feel better in Portugal is because you're on vacation, my guy. It like, of course you have lower anxiety. You're on vacation. It's less stressful. You're probably walking a lot more than you typically do. And you're walking outside. You're getting great vitamin D. You're probably eating better because you're eating out a lot more. And you're going to places that have a bunch of like really great foods and not eating foods that are produced through like the convenience system of our grocery stores. I assume if you had a bunch of TV dinners in Portugal, it would also suck, right? Like, that's what happens when you're on vacation. I don't know what to tell you. So there's that. I would say that generally speaking, the notion that Europeans having a stricter set of standards about food than the United States has fed into a lot of myths about what is or isn't healthy. Many of the protections that are imposed by Europe for import standards are not they're cloaked in the language of health, but there are not very many studies backing up what they're banning. And in fact, very often are designed to create trade advantages for the domestic products that would not be imported. And so it creates an advantage to grow your food, whatever the food is, in Europe as opposed to import it. And so you protect your local agriculture through trade restrictions. That's very often what they're doing. One really good example of this, and I make fun of this all the time, is the chlorinated chicken thing. Like the owner of the Jets was briefly the ambassador to England, and he talked about chlorinated chicken, and everyone's like, oh my God, what in the world are you talking about? He also wanted to buy the NHS. That part does suck. But like there is actually no problem with the system that was in place for cleaning chicken in the United States relative to what occurs in Europe. The chlorine doesn't stay in the chicken. You're washing it. Like that's it. It's less chlorinated than actually most of the things that you interact with, and obviously way less chlorinated than a pool that you're willing to jump into. What are you doing? Like your exposure level to chlorine from if you had chicken every single day, if you had a whole chicken every single day, would be way less over the course of a year than like 2 swims in a pool. It's insane to care about this kind of stuff. Now I keep on using kind of language like at the time and generally speaking, because the food standards are being kind of dismantled in the United States, and that's a serious problem for another podcast to solve. But it's very weird. I don't like it. My issue with the food system in the United States is not solved by a European import restriction guideline, but rather the way things are subsidized and what's kind of being promoted through things like food guidelines and just the way nutrition is communicated and structured and the way certain things are incentivized and the way policy creates food deserts and stuff like that. The food system does make Americans unhealthy, but it's not because of seed oils or that you are not eating Portuguese meat or whatever, which, I mean, that sounds amazing. I want to do that. But like, stop it, please. God, stop it.
I think the episode title ends up being Portuguese meat.
Sounds great.
Football's Misandrous Niche asks, for Arif's Hassanology corner, you often express confusion at many known aspects of your personality and being, such as your enthusiastic Seahawks fandom, your business dealings with the Kansas City Chiefs and promo cookies franchising, and your advocacy for the liberalization of overly bureaucratic labor law, especially in creating opportunities for younger workers.
Okay. First of all, that's amazing. Incredible phrasing there. Second, I have never advocated for loosening restrictions on child labor laws.
Okay. Well, is there potential that there is some sort of Jekyll and Hyde scenario
Oh,
triggered by extreme caffeine intake, potentially due to your childhood overdose. And in that case, when do you think the split occurs?
okay. No, I don't think that happened. Excellent memory, by the way, on the childhood caffeine overdose thing, which I don't think I told that story recently, right? That was a while ago.
That was a while ago.
So outstanding work there. But I don't think there is. But like, okay, even if we accept the premise that there is a Jekyll and Hyde split, right? Like, if I knew when that was, like, wouldn't I be more proactive about preventing a split from happening? Because like the guy sucks that apparently I am. The labor law guy that owns Crumble cookie franchises, that guy sucks. I don't want to be him. So yeah, I props for the question, but like screw you also.
That is actually a Reef's interaction with most of our listeners. Then Cupid asks, for a Reef's Lego corner, as you are a well-known Lego and minifigure collection.
See,
fanatic,
people just make up stuff about me all the time. Why do we accept this?
Yeah. I thought best to come to you with this hypothetical. Let's say I have a large collection of Legos worth somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000. Hypothetically.
Right.
Let's say I adore this collection, but need extra money to pay for a family member's life-saving medical treatment.
Mm-hmm.
In this scenario, I'm not able to take the time to personally search for a buyer for a fair price.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, what would be a reputable business to work with to help sell my beloved collection and save my dying family member? I want to make sure I get a fair price and that it's all handled respectfully, and most of all, privately. All hypothetical, of course. I've heard of a place getting a lot of buzz recently called Bricks and Minifigs. Are they worth checking out?
You know what? Yeah, why don't you Google bricks and minifigs and see what comes up? Okay, so for people who are unfamiliar, there is a scandal regarding a private collection of Star Wars Legos worth between $100,000 and $200,000. In fact, I believe the collection was worth $200,000, and there is about $100,000 maybe left outstanding. Either way, had provided the collection to a local franchise of a nationwide store called Bricks and Minifigs, which is for like Lego collectors and minifigurine collectors and stuff like that. And the arrangement was such that the original owner of the Legos would retain legal ownership of the Legos and would have the ability to retract them into ownership at any time. But they could host the Legos in the store and sell them. And when they sold them, they would take 10% of the sale price as a commission and then return the rest of the money to the original owner. But and this was in Oregon, I think, and then the owner of that franchise like went under, and they kept some of the Legos at their house. They kept some of the Legos in inventory. It wasn't properly marked, whatever. Anyway, Bricks and Minifigs corporate, I think, bought the store out and then sold the store to another owner. And despite the fact that like, if you acquire a property with someone else's property inside of it, you do not then also acquire someone else's property. That's not how the law works, ever, and it shouldn't, right? Like the analogy that I heard from Legal Eagle was like, you know, if you kick a tenant out of your apartment, you don't suddenly own all the stuff that's inside the apartment. That's still that former tenant stuff. Same deal. Like the agreement never transferred ownership over, and so it could not be then transferred over again to another owner because the first owner didn't own. You know what I mean, right? But yeah, so some of the stuff went missing, and there was a poor inventory system, and some of it was returned to the original owner. Anyway, the original owner or the new owner lives in like Utah, and the person who's decided to take this up as like their, I don't speak any languages aside from English, but raison d'etre, is that how you say it in French? Whatever. You know, as their cause has been harassed by the police in a small Utah town, and this guy apparently is pretty big in the local church. You can guess what kind of church it is. And he's been like in jail now a couple of times, and there's like free speech stuff going on. There's been judgments against the original. It's crazy. It's a whole crazy scenario. Legal Eagle has like 4 summaries of it, which I highly recommend. Anyway, probably avoid bricks and minifigs for now. I feel like they're not doing so hot on the Lego reselling front.
Yeah, wait until the dust settles on that.
When it all blows over. Probably Bricklink or something. I don't know. I just Googled some things. I don't know how good Bricklink is.
Yeah. Let's end this with I Hate Carmel, Indiana.
Great.
Who asks, all right, see you next week. For Arif's parenting and degenerate gambling corner. This
okay. All right, man.
You and I've got this covered. My wife and I are expecting our first child in late December.
Congrats.
Congratulations. We're planning the baby pool and the thought to model it after the Hell League, both for the lulz and to capitalize on the prediction market craze. What scoring system, prop bets, and other nonsense should we implement to maximize chaos and extract as much money as possible from our friends and family?
All right. I first of all approve. Great idea. Second, I assume you haven't told anyone the names that you're considering. If you haven't, come up with all the names that you were considering and some that you weren't but are plausible. Come up with rank odds. And here's the thing: randomize the odds. Don't like use the actual odds, and put them out there for consumption. Now you know the name, so it doesn't matter. But like they don't, so they can all bet on these fake odds for what the name actually is. So that's one. Name easy. Assign gender at birth, also a fairly easy one, I think. I think probably you can extend this out past the moment of birth. You could probably, first word, time, like when they take their first unassisted steps, various early-ish milestones, maybe a year or two out, just a year out, into the child's development. And I think there's probably all kinds of stuff you could do. Color hair, color eyes, probably favorite toy, and you have a bunch of categories of toys. And like the thing is, you get to just make all the determinations, right? Like if you say that this was the first word, who's going to contradict you? Like, how are they going to know, right? You've complete control of the market.
I feel like there has to be something that we could equate with like the missed extra point. Like there's something missing.
Well,
here.
yeah. So like, okay. So I think you could both have a prop bet situation going on, and then you could have fantasy teams, like a 5-person league, and you draft the first word, you draft an eye color, which like obviously, the color, like if you have brown eyes, I mean, that's going to go like 1-1, right? But like do that and then like give points for that. And those are static points, right? They happen once, right? Like first word. And then you've also got points that accumulate over the season. So it's going to have to be like a best ball league and not like a weekly league. But like you can have points assigned for, so some of the static points, right? Like first blank, right? But you can also have points for, I don't know, like number of the amount of food that they go through a week, right? I don't know, stuff like that.
These prediction markets are basically running through insider information.
Yeah.
So I feel like you could do something with like, especially around the time when like contractions hit.
Oh,
you could do, okay, when do we hit, this number of contractions per second?
Yeah.
Or like per minute. And then you could because I feel like that's basically like betting on individual pitches in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could really go granular on that.
Yeah, you could.
Like that's the best way to maximize
amount of time it takes to get to the hospital.
Oh,
yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yep. I could see that. And you could like maybe arrange something where it'd be more difficult for you to get over there. Like maybe it's not
Right.
actually an absolute emergency. You get
Right.
there
No, exactly.
immediately.
Yeah. Because like if it's an emergency, all bets are off. But like maybe it's not. Right. You just
Yep,
take your
exactly.
time.
There are ways you can do this.
Yeah.
And with that is me the end of this episode of Norse Code. I'm glad we talked so much football this episode. I was worried that there wasn't going to be much to talk about, and we were absolutely
We even brought up Kyler Murray's name. We're such a good football podcast.
Absolutely. It's also why we went so long. It's because we didn't do anything in June, so I feel like we had to make up something for our sins. Arif, what do you have to plug?
Why Left Out Football. I'm probably going to have a July 4th story. I don't know. We've got a 3-part story from Luke Braun on Harrison Smith. It's really a story about the various ways that defensive back engages in the coverages that the Vikings run, cover 2, cover 3, etc. And so actually there's a lot there about how coverages are run actually in the NFL and the nuances that you can get into, and what Harrison Smith did within those constraints and why he's difficult to replace. Again, it's more about learning about the Brian Flores defense, but it gives you a pretty good case for why it's going to be difficult to replace Harrison Smith. Like we know it is. He's a high-level player. But what exactly about him makes him so good at football, and why don't these other safeties have those things? What do they do that's different in those circumstances? So that's over at Why Left Out Football. Alex Katzen is working very slowly on a piece about sports writing and being in the industry. That's probably going to hit pretty hard. We'll see. That's over at Why Left Out Football as well.
Well, that's me for this episode of Norse Code. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. For Arif, my name is James. Thank you guys so much for listening. And please remember that he has spoken with his therapist. Arif is not autistic. And we'll be back soon.
Norse Code is the largest and only division of Norse Code LLC. You can find Norse Code on the Daily Norseman, SB Nation's Vikings blog at dailynorseman.com. You can also find it on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, and wherever fine podcasts are aggregated. Our Vikings blogger extraordinaire and generally useful human is Arif Hassan of... and he can be found on Twitter at Arif Hassan NFL. I am your producer and host, and my name is James Pagashnik. You can find me at the show's official Twitter feed at NorseCodeDN or at my personal account at Big Mono. If you'd like to donate a few bucks to the show, you can do so in a couple of different ways. You can go to patreon.com/NorseCode and donate there. For $3.50 a month, you get bonus material and more. You can also go to paypal.me/NorseCode for a one-time donation, or you can go to norsecode.threadless.com and pick up some Norse Code merch. Any questions or comments that cannot fit in a tweet can be sent to norsecodepodcast@gmail.com. On behalf of the Norse Code staff, we thank you so much for listening.
Our formula is this.
Hey, all things are possible through the power of Ben DiNucci.